This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1819, Comic Talk. I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Ian Levinstein.
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Chrisopher.
Two can play at that prop game.
Yeah, I don't have anything new within reach. Well, I sorted to I'll show, but it's something I already have open, just another one of them.
All right, fair enough. Well, welcome one and all to a full house comic talk here.
Yes,
as we're back to the regular crew.
Comradeship.
Yes, indeed. And we got a lot to talk about this episode because it has been quite some time since our last comic talk.
Yes.
Yep. We will start it off with some movie talk right after the main introduction here. So prepare for spoilers. Ooh, spoilers. Ooh, the spoiler goblin will get you. But before we get there, we are indeed sponsored by you, the listeners, at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. As every single month, you put more money in the tin and you keep the lights on, both in the studio and online. We would be nothing without you. And we say that loudly and we say that proudly.
You're here.
And truthfully.
Yes. All of your continued support is greatly appreciated over at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. And I salute you.
Thank you.
All righty. So how about we start off with the spoiler bumper right about here. Those of you on YouTube, you can jump right to it. Exactly. As The Suicide Squad was released both in theaters and on HBO Max this past, I think, was it Thursday night or Friday? I'm trying to remember. I
believe Thursday.
Thursday, thank you. Yeah, I actually saw it in theaters. I chose, even though I have HBO Max, I went and saw it in theaters last night at the Alamo Drafthouse in Brooklyn, and had a really nice time. Their largest screen, and there was distancing amongst groups and what have you, and it was very, very nice to be back in that atmosphere and that experience. Murd, I know you saw it in theaters.
Oh yes, just strolled across the street to the Harbor Theater, and that was my dad and I were two of maybe a dozen people in there for the 10 o'clock show last night. It was
nice. Shane, theaters or home?
I plopped my butt in my favorite chair and watched it on TV.
Beautiful. And Chris, I assume home?
Right there with Shaney Poo. Yep.
Excellent. Well, we'll go non-spoiler first. I'd love to get your initial impressions on this, the sequel, if you think about it, and reboot, if you think about it, of Suicide Squad. Is literally they just added a "the" in front of it. They didn't even bother with calling it Suicide Squad 2 or something like that. No, this is the Suicide Squad. Before you just saw Suicide Squad.
It's not just any Suicide Squad. It's the Suicide Squad. It's the definite article.
Exactly.
It's the original logo that I can kind of remember, which I liked.
Mm-hmm. That is very true. I had no idea, by the way, before we get into it, I had no idea that the Suicide Squad had existed since the 50s. Because I knew Ostrander, created the modern version, but I had no idea that there was a 50s version and like Brave and the Bold or what have you.
Oh yeah. And I guess the connection is the Rick Flag character. But yeah, it's a completely different concept. So it's not even a legacy issue. It's just the name given to a different group of characters with a completely different mission.
Got it. Yeah. All right. Well, Shane, how about we started off with you? Thoughts and opinions?
I liked it. I thought it was a better story than the first one, but I didn't like some things about it as well.
Okay.
But it was still enjoyable. I think I will. Well, I can't even say that. I will rewatch it, but I can't say whether I rewatch it more than the other one or not, because I like the other one for a few things, but not my favorite movie. And I still think DC's missing something. It's just there's just something missing about their movies.
Fair enough. Murd?
Well, I agree with Shane on both counts. I believe it's a marked improvement over the first 2016 offering, which wasn't a completely horrible movie too. It was a bit of a mess, but there were some elements in place that I think could have made a quality Suicide Squad movie if they just assembled them in a completely different order. Basically, it would have been a good movie if it had just been a completely different movie.
Which funny enough, Murd is sitting on a shelf somewhere because David Ayer has been very adamant in stating that the version that was released to theaters, I mean, again, we have a Snyder scenario here where they decided that because the music tested so well on the trailers for it and what have you, that they were going to insert that rock score into it, and that Ayer states that there's an entirely different cut of it without any of the rock music and like an entirely different feel sitting on a shelf somewhere that we'll probably never see, because I don't think there's enough interest in an Ayer cut of the original Suicide Squad, but you never know.
Yeah, exactly. You never do. But my concern is it should have been a different plot along with everything else, because the whole their hip shaky doomsday dance, that's more of a thing they should have saved for the sequel, in my opinion. They needed to do something a little smaller and more intimate to build the team dynamic. And what we got in this movie is a little bit more along those lines. And I enjoyed it, as it came a lot closer to approximating the feel of the Suicide Squad comics. Although I, like Shane, again, have some reservations about the tone that they did strike. I think there were it was a giddily enjoyable ride at times, but at other times it just leaned a little bit too hard into the absurdity of it all, and it definitely was reveling too much in the gratuitous gore at certain moments. I would have preferred less carnage and more character, although we did get some good character moments along the way. And it's just kind of cool to see so many lesser-known DC Comics characters, which are a love of mine, just shine on the big screen, however briefly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my God, some of the characters that they went to, like, if you had ever told me that we would see, any sort of polka dotted hero on the screen or villain, I would have been, what? But we did.
Yep.
Gunn, the main character.
He did a deep dip for the Polka Dot Man, but I'm very glad that he took the time.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely. Yep. Chris, what about you?
Dull as dishwater.
Whoa.
Okay.
I fell asleep at a couple points.
Oh, wow.
Even my dad stayed awake for the whole thing, and that's saying something.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm clearly the strongest proponent of this movie amongst the bunch here, because I thought that what we were presented with here was something a lot closer to a comic book than we've gotten out of a DC Comics movie outside of Shazam, because Shazam's pretty damn close to a comic book. I'll give you that. But there was the zaniness that was included in here. The R-rated bits made perfect sense for something that's literally called the Suicide Squad. And although there were, definitely some overly gory moments that even I was taken aback by, I was surprised by just how much character building we got in this movie for everyone involved. Bloodsport, I think they did a terrific job of building him up as a character, and Idris Elba's great in just about everything that he's ever been in, so that didn't surprise me much there. But to get the B-level characters that you got, to make Peacemaker and that stupid helmet actually work on screen.
It's not a toilet seat, it's a beacon of freedom.
Exactly. And John Cena, I am always impressed by the acting acumen that goes with him there. As Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a terrific wrestler, actor, and I was not expecting that out of John Cena, and yet I've yet to really dislike Cena in pretty much anything he's ever been in. And that was definitely the case here. I'm looking forward to the HBO Max series that's going to be following with Peacemaker that James Gunn has written most of, and I think is directing 5 out of 8 episodes of.
Oh, wow.
And that'll be coming soon on HBO Max. But yeah, I was thoroughly surprised by what I got. Wasn't quite what I was expecting to get, but I really did enjoy what I got. And just the fact that it took a Suicide Squad movie to get Starro on the screen.
Don't even get me started on that.
But still, it was Starro. Like, it was absolutely, comic book Starro on the screen for the most part. Mostly. A couple of changes here and there, but that's to be expected. But as I was thoroughly impressed by what I got. I'll just say that. Chris, I'd love to know what exactly didn't work for you. Like, was it the pacing? Was it the style? Like what was driving with you?
What's interesting for me is that I watched it over a couple days.
Okay.
And that's a bad sign right away. Like I didn't feel like I needed to sit down and watch the whole movie in one shot. I will say this. I loved the opening because the fact they wiped out almost all the characters right off the bat, that's pure Suicide Squad, and I really enjoyed that, and there was some good humor there. Sorry for the intentional ice cream reference. And that was fun, and Idris Elba's a tremendous actor. I was just enjoying watching him argue with his daughter. But as the movie progressed, I found it staggeringly predictable. Of course, you're killing all the rebels. They're not wearing army uniforms. Yes, Harley Quinn's going to shoot the dictator. Of course she will. And I've also found the movie's pacing was dragging for me. And it just, to kind of go back to what Shane is saying, and I don't apply this to all the DC films, I just found the movie overall vacuous and not really having much of a core to it.
Okay.
And just not interesting. And I don't mind the gratuitous gore. I expected that from they're doing a Suicide Squad movie.
Right.
But as Murd said, a lot more character would be preferred over the carnage. I was just bored. I just found it a thoroughly boring, not particularly funny, and worst of all for me, deeply predictable movie. At the end, I was like, and part of this is me in middle age. I'm like, I just spent 2 hours of my life watching this movie. Like, for example, if we weren't reviewing the movie, I would have turned it off. I wouldn't have finished it.
Wow.
Because there's other things I'd rather do with my time.
Wow.
I just found it just incredibly dull.
Fair enough. I mean, it's not going to hit for everybody,
No, it just, there's a saturation of comic book movies, and for the most part, I'm enjoying that. But the whole thing just felt very tired to me. So I did like the fact that at the end they did give Starro the moment of saying, I was just happy watching the stars. I thought that was a great little moment.
Yeah.
Does the world need a Peacemaker series? I would say no, but we'll see.
It's getting one.
Yeah,
I won't disagree with that either, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, half of us will be watching it.
To me, this is a paycheck movie. I hope Idris Elba was well compensated.
See, and one of the things that I was the most impressed about with the overall movie was actually its composition. James Gunn could have just made a carbon copy of Guardians of the Galaxy, and had it feel like Guardians of the Galaxy. For me, it would have
been a better movie for me then.
Well, for me personally, I was glad that it didn't go that route, because then it would have been like, why'd you even bother? Why didn't you just make another Guardians movie? And I think that the directorial composition of this film, the shot selection, the special effects, even for that matter, were just way better than I was expecting it to be. And I've felt like at times that has been very lacking with DC's movies. It's not always the case, because again, Wonder Woman, up until its CGI fight scene at the end, was pretty damn good with that, I think. And Shazam, other than a few issues here and there with the actual villain himself, I think did a really good job of that. But this just, I don't know, it worked on all levels for me, and I'm not entirely even sure why. I sat there very happy to be seeing a superhero movie in the theater that I never really expected myself even sitting down to watch. And yet it worked,
Actually, I have a question, because there's one part where I dozed.
Yeah.
was Peacemaker going to kill Ratcatcher because he wanted to protect the government, or he was trying to expose the government?
Protect it.
Yes.
Okay.
He was in Waller's back pocket.
So Rick Flag was trying to work to expose them.
Yes.
At that point.
Okay.
Until that point, he was doing his job, and then once he found that out, he's like,
"All right, that's what I thought," but I nodded off for a minute. So
Rick Flag saw that America was in the wrong, but Peacemaker was more the America is always right type. My country, right or wrong.
That's a terrifying kind of concept, but anyway.
Not only was Flag finding out that America was wrong, it was wrong again for the umpteenth time that he has now had to cover up for the umpteenth time.
Right.
And had just had enough of it.
So that's interesting then. So since Peacemaker represents a kind of concept I find utterly appalling, deplorable, and highly dangerous, how are they going to be applying him in this series?
Well, I mean, for one thing, he's still going to be under the watchful eye of Waller and Task Force X in one way or another. In the last scene, we see two of the underlings of Waller, going to get him. So he's definitely still going to be on a leash, and I guarantee you, he's still got the explosive in the back of his neck that could go off at any moment. So I'm not sure exactly what that series is going to be about, but those two caveats will definitely still be there.
Gunn has said that the Peacemaker series is going to go a little more into the direction of social commentary than this movie did. So it's easy to see how this take on Peacemaker could be used for that.
Oh, yeah.
Some positive effect.
Yep. Yeah.
While we're on that subject, I was kind of a little disappointed that we didn't get more of Peacemaker's background here. I mean, maybe he's saving it for the series, but it seems like we got a little snippet about everybody's troubled childhood, the abusive father of Bloodsport, the positive relationship that Ratcatcher 2 had with Ratcatcher 1, Abner Krill and his mother thing, which is it's very much on point for the kind of foibles that Ostrander gave the villains he wrote for the original Suicide Squad comic. So I was all on board with that. But they don't mention that Peacemaker's father, at least in his post-crisis revised backstory, was a literal Nazi war criminal whom he often hallucinated was goose-stepping around in the background of his life, just judging everything he said and did.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we may very well get there. I mean, they basically made the joke earlier on in the movie that he's like Bloodsport, only not in his overall training and what have you. Like, that he was trained by his father to be, the perfect assassin and all this jazz. But not a lot of mentions of Nazis outside of Jotunheim itself, which, clearly had Nazi origins. So, yeah, they could have tied that in. I think that might have actually been a smart move, Murd, and I'm surprised that they didn't, now that you mention it.
I enjoyed, again, kind of going back to the points we were making, some of the smaller moments, like the death of Milton, I found very entertaining.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that kind of thing were the parts where I found myself awake and enjoying the film. Mm-hmm. But they're just, for me, there wasn't a lot of that.
So I really did enjoy everything with Starro, because it was just neat to see him on the screen and really being almost what I expected him to be from the comics.
Right.
I enjoyed Idris Elba's character and his portrayal. I did like the little vignettes that we got for most everybody's background. But as much as I understand that it is a Suicide Squad and that everyone can be dispatched at any moment for anything, I did get tired of just losing absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
Even Flag, which drove me nuts.
Yeah, that one took me a bit by surprise, considering I fully expected him to be there for further sequels. That seems like a character that's pretty much in there. But then again, at the beginning of the movie, on what turned out to be the B team that we thought was the A team, we had Boomer and exactly Captain Boomerang and some others too that I thought were definitely gonna be around there longer. For one thing, Pete Davidson's character, who was he playing again? for the life of me, I can't actually think of it right now. Let's see. Going to
the one who sold them out to the Corto Maltese.
Yes,
Blackguard.
Thank you.
He looks nothing at all like the character from the comics. He was a Booster Gold villain. He was big, muscular, armored, carried a mace, and had a giant pink ponytail.
Right. That's right.
Got it.
Okay. I forgot about that.
But yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, but both on the point of Boomerang, that was a big surprise and a damn shame because
me too. That's what I thought.
He pretty much is the 80s run of Suicide Squad. He's the first character I think of whenever I think of Suicide Squad of the 80s.
Yep.
A lot of potential, just a total shitheel, which is always fun for a writer to play with. And they threw him away along with all those others. And let's face it, there should have been a movie for the B team in and of themselves. There were a lot of interesting characters and a lot of gifted performers and comedians in that little mixed bag that got sacrificed on that beach.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we even had Nathan Fillion as TDK, which has got to be like the biggest switch of the decade. I'm sure fans were speculating like hell that stood for The Dark Knight and that we were going to get Nathan Fillion playing Batman, but instead we get Arm Fall Off Boy.
Yeah.
That's not a name I made up either. That's the character's actual name in the comics. He was he was a failed tryout for the Legion of Superheroes.
That's one of the parts where I was laughing aloud, though, when the arms are barely hitting the soldiers. Well, I thought that was very funny.
And while I thought it was funny, the first thing I thought of was all anybody has to do is shoot him once in the head and it's done. Like if he was hiding behind something and trying to do that, fine. But that, like, as funny as I thought some of that was, I also thought it was ridiculously stupid beyond my ability to suspend belief. There's one bullet and he's useless.
Yeah, I know. I think they were probably more just taken aback by the entire experience as we were, more than anything else. Because who's expecting that to happen?
Right.
Was
Boomerang in the first Suicide Squad movie?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, he was, and I enjoyed his character in that.
Yeah. And also Savant. Michael Rooker's Savant in the B team as well. Again, fully expected him to show up longer because he's Michael Rooker. He's friends with James Gunn. He's a Guardians of the Galaxy veteran and what have you. And yet, first one to get his head blown off by Waller with his scaredy cat nature at the end there.
Yeah, I just, again, I know it's the nature of the team, but I was just disappointed that some of those, like especially Boomerang, I really wanted him to be around a little bit longer.
Totally.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Although it does open up Owen being in the third one.
It does, but still.
Yeah, which is probably where they're going to go. If they need another Boomerang, there's another one out there. He's got a son. His name is Owen. And he's awesome and has not been used very often. So yes,
got super speed too.
Yes, he do. That'd be a nice feature for the Suicide Squad.
I didn't necessarily buy Waller being called off guard at the end. I mean, it's fine. It serves the story, but
yeah, I think that one benefit of this movie over the original, for me personally, is I feel like this was closer to the Amanda Waller that I like to see, which is one that is so much about her own mission and her own goals that nothing else matters. Whether it be, quote unquote, protecting the United States and their standing in the world, if you want to put it that way, or, her own mission that she set forth. It's like, okay, what's the mission? The mission is you go in there, you get the hard drive, and you leave. Oh, all these people are dying. The mission is you get the hard drive and you leave. That's it.
The destabilization of a hostile regime is just the icing on the cake. It's actually a good thing, says Waller.
Exactly. And comic book Waller probably would have said the same damn thing. And has said the same damn thing at times in the past. So
would her support crew have clocked her in the back of the head?
Not a chance.
Comics, though.
And would she allowed any of them to live after that?
Right.
That's very true.
Did there?
Well, I guess the one repercussion would be, they're forced to work with Peacemaker, which I guess is enough of a repercussion as it is. But
now him in particular, I did find his interaction with Bloodsport funny. entertaining.
Yeah.
But then it got to the part towards the end, not only because he turned on everybody, which again serves the story, but I just got tired of him. I wanted them to lop his head off in the worst way.
Yeah.
And I didn't necessarily know that there was a Peacemaker show coming, so I was thrilled when he finally got knocked off. And when they said they found somebody, and I thought, oh, it's got to be Flag.
Yeah.
And then they turned to him, and I'm like, oh crap.
Yep.
Kidding me.
They did make him a little bit insufferable. That much I will firmly agree with. Yeah. I mean, it's character based, and
it is.
You know, and I think that come the end of the series, as Murd's saying, like, we may very well have a little bit of more of a well-rounded Peacemaker than what we currently have, because you even saw hints of that in the movie. As even as he's following his mission, you know, and you know, as he's killing Flag, you know, when Flag essentially says the words like, you know, Peacemaker, what a joke, that you could very well see that influencing the individual later down the road, as he realizes, you know, what exactly does it take to make peace? Like, is it anything at all costs, or is it something more than that?
Yeah. I did like the Ratcatcher through the whole thing.
Yes.
I even liked King Shark for the most part, although he was a little tiresome in the beginning with his complete stupidity, but I get it. It did work towards the end. I didn't like that Peter Capaldi was just dispatched like nobody's business. I get why, but like, I just the fact that most of these characters will not ever show up again bothers me, because it's comic books. They should show up again, but something that both Marvel and DC are doing very well is once they kill off a character, they're gone. There's no bringing them back. There's no surprise. For the most part, they're gone.
Well, here's one caveat to that, Shane. I'm pretty sure this was the first movie in comic book movie history where we actually got a 2 at the end of somebody's name. You know, that this is Ratcatcher 2.
Well,
they specifically said that, which means, yes, this will be the last time that we see these iterations of the characters. Doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to see legacy versions of said characters down the road, as I said, with Boomer and what have you.
And that's great, because DC is all about legacies for me in most ways. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
But for the actors themselves and all the build up and all the work to get to these characters, and then to only have like 10 minutes in a movie and then you're done, it's disappointing.
Well, I'll tell you, I was sitting in that theater and I'm like, wait a minute, Davidson was only in 5 minutes of this movie? Like, there was so much hype going into it, you know, on the SNL end, and like I know he was out for a couple of weeks this past season in order to film it and stuff like that, and then 5 minutes or less.
That's it.
Okay, yeah.
And I did like where you start off on the beach. Well, you start off in the prison, then the beach, then you go back a little bit and see the other team getting gathered. I did enjoy the back and forth of the first bit to get to the present time.
Yeah.
And in that way, I do hope that maybe at some point we get a Suicide Squad mission with some of these characters, or some flash. I don't know, just something more. I wanted to see Nathan Fillion more.
Oh yeah.
The first, because I watched the first 15, 20 minutes and then I had to stop and I came back and started it over. I didn't even realize that was him at first. Once I did, I wanted to see more of it.
Sure.
But gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a problem with the movie, with, you know, characters that are more expendables than the actual expendables, you know, is that don't get used to them, because they ain't going to be there long, you know?
And I do agree with Murd. As much as I don't necessarily mind extraneous gore, I do think there was a bit much. I think we could have been served better with a little more characterization and a little less of the let's just lop somebody's head off because we can. We get it. I mean, the one time in the jungle when Peacemaker shot the one guy, I did not realize at first he was totally full frontal nude, and whoosh, everything went flying and flopping. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. That's a little bit odd, but okay. That's the way we're going.
Well, let's touch on the best character in this entire film, and King Shark voiced by frickin' Sylvester Stallone. I was so taken aback by how much I enjoyed this lovable lunk of a shark man, you know, because I'm already used to a more talkative King Shark in the Harley Quinn animated, where Ron Funches plays King Shark and does an amazing job of it. But this kind of worked for me, like the redemption of it, like kind of in a Hulk way. Where only a Hulk with a lot more of a taste for human flesh and boy, oh boy, those teeth. But yeah, I thought it really worked for me. And also, again, going back to CGI, didn't really stand out too much as CGI the entire time, even though he was a talking shark.
Yeah, so. It's pretty smooth.
Yep. Yeah, I thought it was smooth. I enjoyed him more towards the end in the battle. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, it just was okay. Yeah, he's learning language. Yeah, hand. Okay, I get it. It was funny at first, but the first few times you see him, I just was ready for him to do something else. And I'm glad he did something else then through the rest of the movie.
Oh yeah, and just having Ratcatcher's relationship with him, I think that helped things out a lot. And yeah, he could have easily just been a side character where at the end I was just like, forgettable. But instead, especially fighting with the, as you see on screen here, those like multicolored, like cute alien, ocean beasts or whatever.
Cylindroids is what I'm going to call them.
What are they? What are they called?
I just named them off the top of my head. They're cylindroids.
There you go. There you go. Why not? Why not? And that's officially what they're called.
Yeah. They're jellyfish-like things with lots of teeth in their abdomens, apparently.
Oh my God, yeah. And then when they start lunging at him.
It was a cute little digression when he made friends with them and then they tried to eat him, but ultimately unnecessary. It feels like at some point in the process, they realized what a hit they had on their hands with this King Shark character. Yeah. And I think they went out of their way to give him more to do in the story, and that's how we ended up with that scene. Yeah. It was kind of annoying me towards the end how indestructible he appeared to be, because how many different buildings fell on him, or he fell on, and he just kept getting up and glumphing on.
It was super funny that way because, with everybody else dying, and yet, a building falls on top of King Shark and he just walks away. Like that much was cool. But yes, agreed. It was kind of a bit much when literally a building fell on top of him.
Well, for that matter, when Bloodsport kept dropping levels inside the building and never falling. I'm like, really?
Yep. When certain characters that are thought to be popular or that the writers just like seem to be indestructible, it kind of undercuts the central premise of anybody can die at any time.
Yeah. As much as I was thrilled that Polka Dot Man was there, I was disgusted that he got killed.
Going back what Chris said about all the predictability in the movie, that was one moment I definitely saw coming. I'm a superhero!
Yeah.
He's allowed to feel good about himself, and then he dies. But it was nice that somebody actually mourned him, Ratcatcher.
Yes. Yep. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Shane, because I did read an interview with James Gunn where there's in the original version of the script, it was actually Ratcatcher 2 that died rather than Polka Dot Man. But they thought that with all the character building that they had devoted towards Ratcatcher, that would have actually made it way too dark.
Yeah, that would have hurt.
Died in the end.
That would have hurt. I really liked her story.
Yeah. But yes, I would have loved to just see them both survive because, my God, just the image of giant Starro mother. I think may have been one of my favorite parts of this entire thing. Just seeing him deal with that and then getting past that and then feeling like he accomplished something, and then as Murd said, the next minute that's it, bye.
And I like that actor because he is in Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. He is in this, and isn't he something on one of the CW DC shows as well?
I think he was on Flash at one point.
I can't remember what he played.
He was in Dark Knight too.
Oh yeah! Wow.
He's in Dark Knight.
He was one of the Joker's minions who Harvey Dent was tormenting in the ambulance.
Oh right.
All right.
So I like that he, to me, is so versatile that I can distinct his characters without seeing him in everything.
Right.
Like, I know it's him, but I think he plays these other characters so well that I can make the distinction that it's not the same character in every iteration, in everything he's playing.
Which is funny because we recently brought up Damien Dark and Dum Dum Dugan, as examples, like completely different characters where you would barely even remember that they're being played by the same actor.
Yep,
that's just really good acting.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. And the other thing that I really wanted to bring up in this overall conversation of it is, while I do love the Starro stuff, do you kind of feel like Starro has been wasted, since now we can't have him show up in like a Justice League at any point? Because yes, the literal first villain of the Justice League, has now been used in a Suicide Squad movie.
And I'll be honest, to a certain extent, I really expected them to show up and steal the show away from the Suicide Squad, and have the Suicide Squad be pissed that they lost out on saving everything because the League came in and finished it in their own movie.
Yep.
I actually just thought of something that it might resolve.
The house just shook.
Us.
Oh no.
Okay, now I had been meaning to make the point that I loved what they did with Starro visually, how threatening he was, and just the sort of biological disgustingness of those vents on the sides of his body where the little Starros came fudding out and attached themselves to people's faces, just like in the comics.
The second or third time I actually turned away because I couldn't watch it anymore.
Oh my God, yeah.
Those little tubules coming out to just latch into people's brain flesh and take them over. But what I didn't like was that he was so physically awkward. I thought it would have been better if his rays, like the 5 appendages of a starfish are called rays, if they had been longer and more sinuous and had suckers all over them, and if he'd maybe slithered a little more than, toddled. Like
a bit of a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
In a snowsuit too big for him. But then it occurred to me, toddler, maybe this isn't the real Starro. Maybe this isn't Starro Prime. Maybe it was just one of Starro's spawn that has been living in Jotunheim all these years. And maybe Big Daddy Starro, who doesn't toddle, who does have longer appendage, and who can float and like hover overhead and is the size of a city, will show up on Earth and wreak vengeance for the way his child was treated in some future movie. And maybe then the Justice League could get involved.
And I did sort of think that, especially when Starro would talk through people, and it just sounded childish. Like when you say, "Well, I really was happy just looking at the stars." I mean, he was very Squire of Gothosy, just whiny like a kid would be, or pouting almost.
This city is mine.
Yeah, you're right. It exactly seemed like that to me.
Okay, that's it. I'm there. There's another Starro out there somewhere. Boom. That's it. I've been convinced.
And he doesn't know he's called Starro because that's what the Thinker called him, but that's not what he came to be.
Sure, yeah. But by the way, Shane, since we mentioned the actor David Dastmalchian, who played Polka Dot Man, he played Abracadabra on The Flash.
That's it.
And not only that, but he's also the voice of Calendar Man and Penguin in Batman: The Long Halloween Part 1 and 2.
Oh, wow.
So he has played a lot of DC villains over the years.
Yeah, he sure has.
Along with the mention that Chris did that he was one of the Joker's goons in the Dark Knight. So yeah, this man is very much a part of DC canon, one way or the other.
Nice.
What do we think of Harley Quinn's overall arc? I know Chris saw it coming. In some ways, this is actually my favorite Harley Quinn performance. Even over Birds of Prey, because I feel like Birds of Prey was a little bit too over the top at times for Harley.
The only part I didn't like was and I think it was predictable, was the waste of her becoming the princess for that time and then shooting the guy. I get it, and it makes perfect sense for her character, but that was like, I don't know, 15 minutes that we lost in the movie that I think could have been served better for the movie. But it's fine. Otherwise, I really enjoyed her characterization in this. I loved when she was hanging, being tortured, and then played passing out, and how manipulative she was in order to kill the first goon, escape, get everybody else, escape, find the rest of the squad. And they're like, well, we're here to save you. Well, I can go back in if you need to. Like, I think she was very well written this time compared to other iterations.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, she very much had the personality down of what I would expect from Harley Quinn, 100%.
Yeah. And I've enjoyed her in all of them, but yeah, I really did enjoy this one more.
I was not happy to see her usurp the focus of yet another DC Universe movie that really should have been more about other characters. I agree she had some good moments. I'm certainly not opposed to her being in these movies, but there should have been like 50% less of her. She didn't need as much of her own little side story as she got. And I'm also not really understanding why her teammates would make the decision, we don't leave a person behind. We have to interrupt the mission and go rescue her at this point. That doesn't seem like the way Task Force X operates.
But that was more specifically Flag than the others.
Yeah, I was going to say that is the way that Flag works in particular.
And from him, I can see that having a history with her over the other characters.
Right.
But
I'm glad at least Peacemaker was opposed to it.
Yeah. But that I don't disagree with you either on that, Murd. As a squad or overall, they could have easily just turned on Flag and said, no, we're not doing that, because it didn't matter. They were doing the mission, and Waller would have punished Flag before any of them because they were just going to go on with the mission.
Yeah. I think that it was a little bit more balanced this time around, the amount of time that we got with Harley than, Birds of Prey, which I was actually very frustrated with the fact that it, was a Birds of Prey movie that was essentially just a Harley Quinn movie with side characters known as the Birds of Prey.
They weren't even the right Birds of Prey. It
was frustrating. That one, I wouldn't, but for pretty much that reason.
Yeah, it's not a terrible movie, but I have many a problem with it. I'll just leave it at that. But with this here, it was balanced enough where I felt like every character got their due. Yes, we could have gotten some more backstory on Peacemaker and some of the other characters, but it didn't feel like it was Harley Quinn and the Suicide Squad, which I did appreciate. There was not enough of her where I feel like she stole the thunder from the rest of the movie, and that I felt was very well done. Your mileage may vary, and it will, but it certainly was not the hour and 30 minutes of Harley Quinn and then hey, Birds of Prey for the rest of it. So tis what it is there. Other things to bring up real quick. Love Taika Waititi as as Ratcatcher 1 for the short time that he was in it. I think that Taika Waititi makes everything better, in my honest opinion, and just having him in here was a nice throw in. Sean,
now, a question on that: is that really an iteration of Ratcatcher from the comics? His character specifically?
It doesn't really bear that much resemblance to the Ratcatcher from the comics.
Okay, because none that I had ever seen was that. And I thought, well, I don't know everything in DC like in Murd's head, so I thought, well, maybe I'm missing something here.
I don't think he ever had a daughter, for one thing. For another, they're not Portuguese. They had to be Portuguese because Daniela Melchior is Portuguese.
Right.
No, the guy's name is Otis Flanagan in the comics.
That's what I thought.
At all. So that's why they had to have their little tender father-daughter moments in Lisbon instead of in the sewers of Gotham City. Because Ratcatcher was one of Batman's rogues.
Yep.
Right.
That's what I remember. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not as crazy as what I thought.
No, yeah, it was definitely an adaptation more than anything else.
Okay.
And it was sweet. I liked these characters.
It was. I appreciated it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the look of the character actually looks a decent amount like the original Ratcatcher does look a decent amount like Taika Waititi. So taking a look at the small image that I found here on Wikipedia, you could easily have Taika Waititi be under that mask if you really wanted to be. Yeah.
I did love Sebastian.
My God.
Keeping my fingers crossed that Sebastian survived, and sure enough.
I thought for sure when he went into Star, that was it. I thought we were going to lose Sebastian.
Oh my God, no! Just in general, I'm not much of a rat person.
No, me either.
And this movie, did not care that I was not much of a rat person, and I admit I awed at Sebastian multiple times with him just like waving at Bloodsport and what have you.
I think
Bloodsport made peace with him at the end. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think about times when people I know had a problem with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade or Doom Patrol for the rats involved. I can't even imagine them trying to watch this and
oh my God,
having them be overrun with rats.
There are much worse movies for ratophobes out there than this one.
True.
It's good PR for rats, really. And that scene where Harley and all the rats are doing their little synchronized swim through the Starro's eyeball.
Yeah.
Poetry in motion. I turned to Dad and said, S. Williams, eat your heart out. And he laughed because, like all of us in this conversation, he is old.
There you go. A lot of the trippy moments in this were great. Like when suddenly you're seeing like flowers erupt as Harley is destroying everybody in there and what have you. Like
in that scene, I went, okay, Harley, here's the top, and here's what you're doing right now. That scene.
Exactly. Yeah. Some other things to throw in there: Sean Gunn playing both Weasel and Calendar Man. That's James Gunn's brother, who's in pretty much everything James Gunn has ever done.
Yep.
And hey, Weasel survived.
And the crowd cheers.
I was expecting more out of an extra credit scene.
Oh, I know, but it got the job done for me. I was fully expecting we would have at least another Weasel moment in this movie. It was too good not to. But did anybody catch the literal Guardians of the Galaxy cameo?
No.
Mantis herself was one of the dancing girls.
One of the singers.
Yep.
I thought that was her, and I thought no. Yep. I didn't hear anything about her being in it.
Yeah, she was a cameo that James Gunn was able to throw in there. Pom Clemente was in there as one of the dancing girls. So
it's right center stage.
Yes, indeed.
Yep, that entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the best cameo of all, though. And you guys know who played the doctor who was installing the explosives in the squad members' skulls? The one who whispered "good dog" into Michael Rooker's ear.
I do.
Just Ian. I knew Ian would. Yep. That was John Ostrander himself.
Oh, get out! Oh, wow!
And he was perfect for that. Central casting couldn't have sent over a better crooked government surgeon than he played in that moment.
Oh, wow! Well, that's awesome.
Glad that they were good to him and let him have that part.
Yeah.
He was in need a little while ago. He had glaucoma and couldn't afford the operations. They had to have a benefit for him at one of the conventions about 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just glad that this is going to help his finances considerably, and he deserves it.
Oh, definitely. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. Well, I think that in the end, for a movie that I could have saw on HBO Max, I am still super glad that I saw it in the theater. I think it was an excellent theater experience, but I'm definitely going to rewatch it on HBO Max because it's right there. Mm-hmm. Like if I want to rewatch it, it's right there. That's it.
You don't have to pay any extra to do it, right?
Now,
exactly.
If a theater,
you listening?
If a theater would have been across the street, like at Murd's, I probably would have walked across the street. Otherwise, I was perfectly happy just watching it at home.
Yep. That's very true. And if I had. I mean, I came close actually, but like it turned out where the friends that I wanted to see it with, it was easier for us to see it in the theater rather than them come here to the Bronx. And that's the way it turned out. But I think that in the future, for some of the other releases like Dune, that's when I'm going to have to make an important decision because Dune feels like it will be amazing on the big screen.
Absolutely.
But I have a 50-inch right there. So we shall see. It's up for interpretation.
As Pants would say, these are first world problems.
Exactly. Yes, they are. But you know what? As Pants would say, it's my hill and my beans. All right, let's get our frickin' squeers for this one, gentlemen. Chris, how many?
Barely a 2.
Yowzers.
I knew you were going to go 2.
Murd?
3 3/4.
Okay. Shane?
I'm going 3.5.
I'm giving this one a 4.15. It is not quite. Yeah, and it might even go higher, honestly, the next time that I see it. Like it was the right movie for me at the right time. I'm sure that in a different mood or a different scenario, I may have felt a little bit differently, but that was not the case here, and I had fun. So that's what matters. Yeah. And Chris got a good nap, so you know.
Well, I dozed in and out.
I can't put my finger on it completely, just what all of these movies, and as much as I like the first Wonder Woman and Shazam and bits of this and bits of that, they're just, all of them are just missing something. They're just a bit outside of what I want to see from a DC movie.
Fair enough. Yeah. This one was missing the least for me so far. Shazam, very close, but this one was missing the least for me. And I think that over time we're going to get there. I'm really curious what this Flash movie is going to be like, because
I have high hopes for that.
I have high hopes for it as well. And it just seems like it's just going in an interesting direction more than anything else.
And I really need to have the reverse happen in the movie, where TV Flash shows up in the same scene or another scene very similar, just for a couple minutes.
Yes.
To make it complete in that direction too. That's just me.
I think, unfortunately, I think we would have gotten there had the whole thing with Cyborg not happened in real life, because I think they may have very well been setting up that very scene to play out, because, you know, like when he showed up on Flash, the TV show, he was essentially being like, oh, you know, hey, Cyborg, you know, this crazy thing just happened, and then he you know, disappears back. Yeah. I think we might have seen the other end of that scene in the movie, and we're not going to get that now. But maybe they'll figure out something else. Well, yeah. we shall see. We shall see. All right. Well, before we get into the main comic talk here, let's do it early in the episode.
Yes.
Wow.
Amazing.
I feel better.
As do I. It's a tonic for the spirit.
That's right.
Jury's still out as to how good I'm gonna feel. Let's.
You're gonna feel great.
It's gonna be fantastic. Don't you worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
It'll be a trivia enema.
Everything will be fun. Trivia. Oh, whoa! That I was not gonna go there, but you did. So there we go, sir.
This podcast needs an enema.
Oh no. Time once again for Muddle the Murd here on Comic Geek Speak, and Mr. Murd will explain all about what the heck that is.
I'll do my best, Ian. All right, so Muddle the Murd is our trivia contest segment here on Comic Geek Speak. We tend to do one every time we do a comic talk episode or another episode with some empty space to fill. It basically consists on you, the listeners, submitting groups of 3 comic book trivia questions for me, the Murd, the titular Murd in the title of the segment, to attempt to answer. These groups of 3 questions need to be 1 Marvel, 1 DC, and 1 question about comics published by somebody else. They also need to break down chronologically to 1 question about comics published pre-1970, 1 question about comics published between 1970 and 2000 inclusive, and 1 about comics published post-2000. Please don't go into too much tiny picayune detail, like how many windows are on the side of the Daily Planet building in Action Comics number 375, page 3, panel 4. Just more or less major plot and or character details, please, and also nothing having to do with letters, pages, advertisements, etc. Just meat of the story, if possible. So send us some questions and their answers, of course, meeting these criteria to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com with Muddle the Murd in the subject line. Our quizmaster Ian will find them and gather them up and save them to ask to me at a later time. And if I fail to answer any one of the 3 questions you submit correctly, you will have won a fantastic prize, which I will then mail to you at my own personal and painful expense.
And what is that painful prize today?
Well, that hopefully not painful for the person who wins it. But after having given away all of our Drawer Boxes prize packs, which our friends at the Collection Drawer Company put up as kind of a cross promotion to celebrate their and our 15th anniversary last year, those are all given away now. So the next prize up, as I mentioned last time we did this, I didn't have a copy of it on hand to describe it properly, but I'm lifting it up to the camera right now. You can see it backwards right there. Prime Suspects. The Anatomy of Integers and Permutations. It is a graphic novel written by Andrew and Jennifer Granville, illustrations by Robert J. Lewis, and it is a mathematical murder mystery in graphic novel form. It's noir. It takes the form of a detective story that also serves to teach mathematical concepts. I thought it was a pretty neat thing when it showed up at the CGS studio, and I thought I would offer it up as a prize for some lucky soul who succeeded in muddling the murd. We've also got a whole pile of less arithmetical prizes to give out, courtesy of our friend John Morrissey, Big John, the Marvel Man. We'll get to those, though, after Prime Suspects has found a home.
Excellent. Well, this one is from a friend of the show and longtime listener, Atch Attack himself, Mike Atchison.
All right.
Nice.
And he has these words of encouragement to get us started. Hello, my friends at Comic Geek Speak. Your call for Muddle the Murd trivia questions has been heard and heeded. My themed submission is as follows.
I love themed submissions.
And these ones, feline first appearances.
Okay.
And we begin with Independent, pre-1970. First appearing in Archie's Madhouse number 22 in October 1962. Name the American short-hair cat that lives with Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Salem.
Bada bing.
Oh,
there you go.
There wasn't even hesitation.
Oh, yes.
It was like a surgical strike. Oh.
Well, also, any kid of the '90s would probably get that one right, because Sabrina the Teenage Witch was on many a year with Melissa Joan Hart.
Mm-hmm. And the puppet Salem cat. Yeah, I was not a regular viewer, but I do remember, tuning in a couple of times and accidentally seeing Salem and his little jerky puppet motions delivering some one-liner or other.
Nice.
You all right there, Shane? I get swept away, I hope.
That's what I'm hoping, because the house sure as hell shook like crazy just now.
Oh boy. Oy. I heard some thunder here not too long ago, so I think we're finally getting the rain. But
I don't think I've ever felt the house shake that much just from thunder.
Oof!
I'm on the upper floor, and you could. And I'm like,
oh boy. Well, Weatherman Shane will be keeping us updated as the episode moves forward here, and hopefully everything works out all right. Marvel, 1970 to 2000. Name the pet cat of Agatha Harkness, who first appeared with her in Fantastic Four number 94 in January 1970.
Oh, darn. Yeah, this one I'm not going to be able to name, and I should be able to name it. All that's coming to mind is Teakle, and that's Clarion the Witch Boy's cat. Wrong company, wrong decade, wrong everything. It's not McGuire. That was Jack-o'-lantern's cat. Grimalkin.
Unfortunately, no. Any guesses from Shane or Chris?
No, not that one.
I can picture the cat, but I'm sure this is wrong. Merlin.
The correct answer is Ebony.
Okay.
Yep.
Ebony
Ebony the cat.
I was not going to guess that. I feel a little bit better, but it's a piece of Marvel mammal lore that I can now add to my existing store.
There you go. Mighty Marvel mammal lore, for that matter. Mm-hmm. All right, and last but not least, DC post-2000. First appearing in Final Crisis Rage of the Red Lanterns number 1 in October 2008. Name this ferocious feline member of the Red Lantern Corps.
Well, the internet nicknamed him Rage Kitty, but his actual name is Dexstar.
You are correct. Mm-hmm. You are correct. Dex-Starr.
He has to be named after an actual cat of one of the writer or artists.
Yeah. Oh, I guarantee it.
Somebody's girlfriend has a cat named Dexter, who's just like a hellion, and has now been immortalized as a Red Lantern.
Excellent. He says, I hope you are all staying healthy. And this is how old this is. He hopes we're enjoying the fall season. We're not there yet, but that was last fall. So enough said on that one. Mike Atchison, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Mike, you are the best.
Thank you, Mike.
And we'll hear from you soon one way or the other. So there we are, a muddle avoided. Excellent. Gentlemen, getting into actual comic talk before we get into comics that we've read. Did you hear the news that came out today of about a new comic book company that will be joining us?
No.
Jonathan Hickman, Scott Snyder, Saladin Ahmed, and more are launching a comics company through Substack. Substack is a subscription service. And Nick Spencer will lead a host of top comic book creators, including Hickman, Snyder, Ram V, Molly Ostertag, and Saladin Ahmed in starting comic subscription newsletters through digital publishing platform Substack, as announced by the New York Times today.
Wait, I'm sorry. Are they publishing comics or a newsletter?
I think it's going to be a little bit of both,
Okay.
Honestly. The Times credits Spencer with brokering the influx of creators to Substack, stating Spencer began working with Substack founder Chris Best in the period of 2020. And James Tynion IV is also included in the Times announcement, having broken the news in his involvement with Substack himself and his departure from Batman to focus solely on his creator-owned work. So the creators who come to Substack will retain sole ownership of their work, be it comics, instructional material, or other publications released through the platform, while also being paid by Substack. So their newsletters, independent comics, and anything in between from some of the best creators in comics.
And this will be exclusively digital, obviously.
This will be exclusively digital as of now. I think there may eventually be physical releases for this, but the biggest question is Hickman leaving X-Men? And that has not been confirmed as of yet, because he's doing Inferno, and this may very well be the end of it after this. It's not been confirmed either way by Marvel nor by anybody else, but it would not surprise me if he's
well, I would hope so, because you always want him to tell a finite story and that's it, because otherwise these things just drag on and it's just not interesting anymore. So,
exactly.
And I also would say to that, Ian, is that any opportunity for creators to own their own work is welcome. And I was just thinking about this today before our discussion, that really some of the most exciting stuff in comics, which is hitting every genre now, it's all the creator-owned stuff. That's what that's what I'm really reading first and foremost. So more of it is good news for me.
And some of the works that have already been announced include Saladin Ahmed and Dave Acosta on a science fiction comic called Terror War, where residents of the future must confront the physical manifestations of their fears. And James Tynion IV and Michael Avon Oeming getting together on a book called Blue Book, which recounts tales of alien encounters taken from real testimony. The name comes from the so-called Project Blue Book collection of alien evidence known to real-world conspiracy theorists.
Wow.
Yep. And Hickman is going to enlist his own team of co-creators, most of which he has worked on with the X-Men line, to start putting out work. And we're not quite sure what that work is going to be yet, but this all looks incredibly promising. I am definitely going to have to pay attention to this, because I mean, with some of the best creators in comics getting on the bandwagon here, it's definitely a step in the right direction. So had to mention that on this comic talk episode, because it's literal comic talk.
Yeah.
Before we jump into comics, would you guys indulge me? I really want to talk a little bit about the end of Loki.
Oh, yes. Most definitely, yes. I forgot it's been that long since we've done a comic talk.
It's been a while, so.
Yes.
So I know you weren't thrilled, Chris.
No.
Yeah.
And caveat, I love the series.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just go into why
Sure.
bothered?
Sure. And spoilers begin now. Go right ahead. Yeah.
So I've talked many times how much I love the Kang the Conqueror concept in the comics.
Yes.
And never done better than in Avengers Forever. And also done very well in the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon also.
Very true.
And so when we get to the end of Loki, again, a series I thoroughly enjoyed, I think Tom Hiddleston, when we look at all the different actors who play the Marvel characters, I mean, some of them get more to the essence of the character than others. He gets the essence of Loki from the first Thor movie forward. I love his performance, and I thoroughly enjoyed it here. I think I was not that I was expecting, like a somber, grave immortus type character when they finally got to the stronghold at the end of time. But it's someone who I would find excruciating to sit next to on an airplane for 2 hours. This utter goofball. It took me completely out of the show. I get it. Maybe they want to contrast him with how evil his Kang persona is going to be, but it was like nails on a chalkboard. Like it took me out of the entire episode. And I know the guy's a good actor. It's just the way they wrote this character. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess maybe all right because the TV had some goofy elements like the computerized hostess and all that type of stuff, but maybe it's just the comic book nerd in me. I was just expecting something completely different than what they did, and I found it again. I just found it irritatingly goofy and just deeply deflating.
I won't disagree with you at all. I expected more out of that last episode for that character, something a little bit more resembling Kang. And I enjoyed the whole series.
I loved it.
Start up to that point as well. And when I got done watching that episode, I said to my son who was watching, and I said, well, that was kind of a letdown. I mean, I know who it is, but it's almost so unrecognizable in a lot of ways. And like you said, just some goofball, irritating person. I thought that was kind of weak to end the show on.
Murd?
I think the problem here is really one of pacing. I mean, but more than writing and even really more than Jonathan Majors' performance here, because I think what the showrunners wanted, they really wanted the big cliffhanger leading into the season finale to be, oh, we finally broken through the Citadel at the end of time. What will we find there when we go inside? And then they realized they didn't really have enough story left after that point to fill an entire season finale episode. So we ended up with a whole lot of Loki and Sylvie sitting there politely watching Jonathan Majors doing his little one-man show, doing the best he could to fill time. Majors has been quoted as saying, well, for one thing, he has some professional clowning training in his background, and he was drawing on that. He said that he smiled more in that role probably than he has in all the other professional Hollywood roles he's had to date. And he's just, in his mind, he was trying to figure out what this character's behaviorisms would be after living a million lifetimes and being stuck for most of that time subjectively alone in this citadel at the end of existence. And I guess his conclusion was that he would go a little bit loopy with all the responsibility and the knowledge that there's so many worse versions of his out there waiting like wolves at the door of existence, waiting to spring back into being and let hell loose. I think it's not so much what he did or what the writers did, is the fact that it had to go on for too long to fill the space of that last episode. But personally, I was fine with the interpretation of this He Who Remains, who, after all, is not Kang.
No,
right. Not Immortus.
True.
He's a completely different iteration, and they wanted to make him as different from whatever version or versions of Kang / Immortus / Scarlet Centurion, etc. we will eventually be seeing.
Right, that I understand.
That's why when you voiced your initial displeasure a couple of episodes ago with this and mentioned offhand that you were cringing at it, Chris, I said, you've only seen the tip of the iceberg, Chris, or something like that. You ain't seen nothing yet. I think that was my way of just saying, be patient. Better versions of Kang are certainly in the offing.
Oh, Murd, that's like what I said earlier. I'm sure, again, there's going to be the sharp contrast between this and when Kang, besides the quick little shot of the statue they showed you, actually appears. I don't know. I think your point about the time filling, because you're right, they were sitting there an awful long time.
Yes.
in that scene.
So
that's a valid point.
So here's my take on it. I'm actually a lot closer to Murd, where it didn't really bother me that much, and I'm of the mind, I've watched enough Doctor Who where there have been, second parts of Doctor Who episodes that have literally taken place almost entirely in a room talking to somebody, and oftentimes it's with the Master, and I actually fully understand and appreciate that for what it is. This particular episode felt more like a one-room play than anything else. and not necessarily in a bad way, because we needed this episode for what's to come, as Murd pointed out. We needed this episode for what's to come in Loki, because as we found out at the end of the episode, Loki will return for season 2, meaning that there's a lot more where this came from. And which also means that even necessarily the Kang that we wind up getting in Quantum Media may not even necessarily be the Kang we wind up seing in Loki.
Right.
It could be an entirely other variant. We don't know until we actually get there. In the end, I actually appreciated the slow pacing of this compared to some of the other finales that we've gotten, which were all either boom, boom, bang, bang, action, or, oh crap, we need this to end because there's no more after this. I'm glad that we didn't get that this time around, and I did not mind this iteration of not Kang, because there have been some cuckoo banana Kang out there before. Like we've seen that in the comics. Ones that have reached their boiling point and essentially have nothing left in them, exasperated, whether it be Immortus near the end of his life or whether it be Kangs that have just given up. That's essentially what we got here, and we had to get that to then get What If and what's to come.
And I get that too. I just thought, like, for a palate cleansing slowdown, I expected it not to be in the finale. Not good or bad, and I'm perfectly content to wait and see what happens next and what he brings as a more devastating Kang down the road.
Right.
I just thought for the zaniness and the interesting aspect of the whole show, because I've said it before, I can't remember if it was on the show in the first episode we reviewed or just around the house, but this was the best Doctor Who season we've had in a long time.
Oh, agreed. Yes.
So for all the eclectic craziness of it, I expected a little bit more than just sitting in a room for a long time for this in the finale. If this would have happened the episode before, and then not that you need a lot of action, but if you would have had just something different happening for the finale, maybe I would have liked this part a little better. But I thought for building up everything to get to the finale, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, it was good, and I'm looking forward to what's next. But as a finale, it kind of was lacking for me.
Honestly, I was just so happy to find that He Who Remains was not just another variant of Loki, that I would have been willing to take almost anything they gave me.
100%.
Well, I would have been disappointed if it was that. I was happy with the variants we saw, and I needed no more.
Part of me actually thought for about 2 seconds, Murd, that we were going to get to this guy and it was going to be Thor. Like just for like the ultimate like waka waka of it all. You're expecting one thing and then there's literally just Chris Hemsworth sitting there being like
Loki.
Yeah. Were you expecting something else? Something along those lines, but that's not. What we got.
In the penultimate episode of this, you remind me of the fact I loved how they brought in every version of Loki we know from the comic book history. That was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. and Frog Thor for that matter. Frog Thor in the container there, with his issue number on the jar that he's stuck in. Oh, that was such a good throwaway gag. I love it.
There were so many wonderful Easter eggs. All the think about every costume Loki has had in the comics was in that episode.
Yep.
It was so well done.
Now, quick question about Boastful Loki. Was that a version of a Loki that we've seen in the comics before, or was that just a creation for the show?
Which one was Boastful Loki? I'm sorry,
the black one.
The black one.
The outfit is from the comic. I'm not sure about that persona. I can't speak to that. I was focusing more on the fact they clearly made sure every single appearance of the different versions of Loki's appearance, they got it all in that episode.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Even the smarmy and Hiddleston's in the suit with the little horns. That's
from my god,
one era.
Vote for Loki, yeah.
Yep. Well done.
Oh, and I assume everybody saw the Thanos copter.
Yes.
No, I missed that.
Oh my god, yes.
Oh.
No. What they did with they threw in every little stupid silly thing, and the fact that the ruins of Manhattan that you see, the Avengers Tower had the logo for Kang's corporation.
I missed that one. Okay.
Yeah, I forget the actual name of it offhand, but it might have even been something like Kuang Industries or something like that. But I remember, I think it was maybe even during Bendis's run on Iron Man that it involved Kang, and he had bought Stark Tower, and then we find out afterwards that it was all Kang's doing. So they even threw that in there for that matter. But God, I love classic Loki. Like everything about that look and that
great character actor Richard E. Grant. Yeah,
beautifully done. Beautifully done.
Glorious purpose. That is how a Loki dies.
You're damn right.
Yep. Like mad and hurling bolts of magical power at an ineluctable foe.
And first time I can remember seeing him in anything, and it is a 100% guilty pleasure, and I've watched it over and over, is Hudson Hawk. Absolutely love his character, and that is so over the top, ridiculous. Yeah,
I always think of him as Dr. Seward in Bram Stoker's Dracula. I mean, that actor Richard, he's been in a ton of films.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what he pointed out, like when he's talking about like, oh well, did you try to stab Thanos? Like no, I created an illusion of myself and I disappeared. Like I thought to myself, well, wait a minute, what if our Loki did that too, and we just haven't found that out yet? Like this might just not be a variance. Like our Loki, like the main universe Loki, could easily not be dead and could be off on a planet somewhere for all we freaking know. Like it's a very easy way to bring Hiddleston back post this show if we're not going with a variant. So you never know which direction we're going to wind up. But I think that patience is all I'll say, Chris. Patience, and we're going to get there.
Ian, look, I'm as patient as they come.
Oh, I know.
I never mind slow pacing anything. What I mind, for me, it wasn't the pacing. I just didn't. I was thrown by the character they gave us.
Right.
And I just found him excruciatingly annoying. So, it just, again, nothing against the actor. And I think Murd's point about the timing is very well taken. And if they do Kang justice, wonderful. But that's a small point. I mean, the overall show was tremendous. The scene with Sif coming out over and over and over
so
again, tormenting him.
Yep.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah. Yep. And by the next comic talk that we have for you fine folks here on the feed, we will have watched the first episode of What If, and we'll be able to report back on that. So very much looking forward to that. But how about we transition from an annoying character to a character that some people find annoying in the DC universe. But we love them. We love them.
Yeah, we sure do.
We absolutely love them. Shane, they finally gave you what you wanted.
It's close. It's close. I still wanted it to be called Brave and the Bold.
Fair.
Booster and Beetle, Brave and the Bold. But, small price to pay to finally get something.
Oh, my God. Absolutely. Yeah.
I was thrilled.
Yeah. And terrific artwork, too, I guess.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
I mean, I like the artwork. I can't remember. Oh my God, I can't remember his name from the last Booster Gold series. And
was that? Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Got it. Yeah. Because I'm thinking even further back. With Jurgens and Ratmund.
Right. Oh, right. Norm. That's it. Norm Ratman.
Yep.
But I really did feel satisfied with this issue. A lot of fun. I loved how they're saving the Justice League, but nobody really cared and everyone thought it was staged. I mean, poor Booster Gold, even after all this crap.
Well, the social media posts were hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The fight.
Yep.
And the one that was obviously Guy Gardner, that was beyond.
Yep. It took me a surprisingly long time to get that as I'm reading through the issue. And then it hit me and I felt so stupid for not knowing it right away. But yeah, just absolutely brilliant episode. I'm really thrilled to see where this goes. I wish it was more than 8 issues, but who knows? Yeah, I thought the characterizations were pretty spot on.
Yep.
I have to still read the Suicide Squad series where Ted kind of came out. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do that yet. I have the issues, but I didn't read it yet. But yeah, a lot of fun. Zany Booster and Beetle fun. They certainly try to do the right thing, but don't take themselves too seriously. I love how Skeets kept interjecting about, when you guys come together.
Would be Booster without Skeets.
Yeah. And Skeets really. Okay. And Skeets really grounds him.
Version of Skeets.
Exactly.
Yeah. And all I could hear in my head is Billy West whenever I read Skeets anymore.
Same here. Yep. Ever since Justice League. Yeah. It's hard not to.
Yep.
Shane, silly question because I forgot. Did Dan Jurgens create Booster Gold?
Yeah.
He did. Okay. So that's all the more reason why the book was so good. I mean, the characterization was so spot on, and just the dynamic between the two of them, the humor, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And I mean, unless he takes Booster in a completely different direction here, we know he craves the limelight and plays this all up, but deep down through everything, he is still the hero. It's just nobody knows that, and he doesn't help himself either doing it. But he does always do the right thing in the end. Some of my favorite portrayals is of him during Infinite Crisis 52 and his series after that.
I love the series after that.
I love the Booster that no one knows is a hero except Batman. I mean, he's the only one that really figured out Booster's playing it up the whole time just to throw everybody off for what he really is doing and fixing in a quantum leapish kind of way time. I love how Booster's shown up in what was it, Superman in Action or just Superman not long ago. He showed up in Batman Beyond a few months ago. All these little bit parts I loved, and to me it builds up to we can still do something with these characters. There's enough there that Booster and Beetle can still have their day.
Oh, sure.
Speaking of Batman, when all the leaguers are giving their opinions, he's just stone-faced and says nothing.
Yeah.
And I actually really like how it played out in this issue. Where the entire time Booster is like, we're gonna get in, we're gonna get in, and then he goes off with Black Adam, and they offer the league membership to Ted in particular, what's Ted going to do other than turn it down? Because he's, if they're not going to offer it to him and his best friend, then what's the point of being in the league?
And to me that and I just looked at it to make sure I was thinking right. To me, Batman's stone cold face could really be two things. I mean, it could be the absolute, he's a goofball, we're not going to ask him, do you even need to look at me? Or it could be, I know exactly what he's really doing, and I'm still going to be silent because it would throw everybody off if I said what he's really doing.
And a question, again, this is just me being just for the fun of being a continuity geekness. The all the stuff you're talking about was pre New 52. So how do they reconcile all of that now? Like Ted dying and all that type of, or is it just kind of washed away?
They just kind of whitewashed it away. They never, in one issue of post New 52, Ted was younger and showed up somewhere. I can't remember if he had Cord Industries at that point yet or not. And then that kind of got washed away, and all of a sudden he's the mentor for Jaime and can't be the hero anymore, and yet still went out on adventures and helped a little bit, just wouldn't suit up fully. And then the Suicide Squad thing, and all of a sudden here. And that's really it. There has not, to my knowledge, and I could be forgetting it, because unlike old Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and old Justice League, where I read them over and over again, I haven't read most of the newer stuff over and over again. The closest I came was that previous Booster Gold series, where I did read a lot of that at least twice. But everything since then is kind of just reading and putting it down, reading and putting it down. So I don't remember them ever resolving how Ted's really back, other than he just showed up in the New 52
because
as a young Ted.
I asked that because it's clear that with the tone of the story, granted it's also Jurgens writing it, that history is clearly there in the way that they're interacting with each other.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, they mentioned that they were members of the league for at least a few months.
Yeah.
Right.
That their version of the league existed in one form or another. Yeah. And they also even mention, Ted's heart condition that he got over, because that was the case in early New 52, that he was essentially helping out Jaime.
And stemmed kind of from Birds of Prey, where he had a heart condition from that series before New 52 stuff. So that part kind of stayed in through the New 52 once you got past that to the Blue Beetle series that Ian just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, we could tie ourselves in knots. I was just curious.
Oh yeah. No, and I mean, at this point, like DC continuity is so nebulous. Like the New 52 essentially has been reset at this point. It's just not quite what it once was. It's kind of an amalgam of it all.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Well, it's no different than taking everything from Crisis on Infinite Earths and restarting it so that some of it's familiar, but yet there's still new stuff. And that's kind of how I felt like once now this Infinite Frontier kind of stuff is coming through. It's everything that we know and loved that disappeared with the New 52 is kind of back.
Yeah, everything that worked best and sold best and that the fans have been most vocal about missing. That's getting back in, along with everything that worked best and sold best from the New 52 that the fans want to be kept.
Yeah.
Hey, Jade and Obsidian are back. Enough said.
And I
agree.
Kind of okay with that because there's a lot of interesting things that did happen in the New 52 and whatever they're calling everything that came since.
Yeah.
So it's not like I want to wash all that away because there was some great things done, but I missed my continuity that I grew up loving. And to say it's mostly back or kind of back or amalgamated into being back, I'm okay. And I'll give it a little bit. I mean, I still read the stuff. I have the app, but buying comics, I mean, I was of course going to buy this, but I don't have the same desire to buy absolutely everything because I love it. I'd rather just read it and I'll buy a copy of something to me special like this. And this certainly was out of the blue. I had no idea this was coming.
Well, Shane, it does my heart good that you enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, I really did.
Hey, Shane, I spent full price on this
so
Comicsology app. And that does not happen very often. So
yeah, I'll tell you. I know I mentioned it in the email that we had going around. I was up at my mother-in-law's helping with some stuff up there, and there has been a comic store. God, I wish I had the card with me. Shoot, I don't. It opened 2018, I think, at least, maybe a little bit before that. And every time we'd go up there for something, it was late at night, early in the morning. I was too busy. I never got down to see it. Then the pandemic hit and we never went anywhere close to it. And we were driving by on our way to get to the house. And it was like, I don't know, 3:30 in the afternoon. And all of a sudden we're going by and I see the little open sign flash. I'm like, oh my God, the store's open. Maybe I can get to it today. And Carlene says, well, pull in. All right. Pulled in, we went. Neat little gaming store, lots of comics, all new stuff, no back issues.
Is it called Alchemist Cove?
That's it. That's
there we
go. Great. Great trade paperback section. I actually picked up because I meant to do it and never did. I picked up a hardback copy of Tom King's Mr. Miracle.
Tremendous.
So I generally don't buy things at full price, but when I walked by the racks and saw, oh my God, blue and gold are that. I know I got one coming, but man, I couldn't pass it up to read it.
Oh, sure, absolutely, yeah, and I mean, hey, I mean, it gets you to talk about it right here on the show right after it happened, and I like their layout of wall space. I think it works very nicely. Yeah,
their comics wrap around almost the entire one side perimeter, and then you loop into trade paperbacks and hardbacks. They've got a fantastic spread.
Very nice.
There's a separate room that has tables where they game at. And when I was there was a guy, I assume associated with the store, owner of the store, worker of the store, whatever. Yeah. And he was teaching kids, maybe 12 to 13 or 15, how to play Dungeons and Dragons. He had the whole Dungeon Master screen up. They're all sitting there with their rolled characters, or he had some pre-made ones because I overheard them talking. And I, as I'm looking through this stuff, I'm listening to them, and it really was fun to listen to. And then in the whole front section, there's tons of tables set up for all kinds of gaming. They've got some toys and action figures, pops, lots of games, lots of European games, miniatures for games and Dungeons and Dragons. It was a very nice store. I was very impressed.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I look forward to seeing what the rest of this series is going to be like. And
yeah, me too.
And 7 more issues to go, so it's going to be a lot to come, at least in the next few months.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yep. Did you guys happen to hear about the news that came out just about, I think, a little bit before we started recording here, that Tim Drake came out? It happened in the comics that Tim Drake is at least bisexual. We don't know exactly what's which direction it's going, but in the in the most recent issue, Urban Legends, the miniseries that's been going on that he's been the star of, he accepts a date with a guy who named Bernard, who he had become friends with, and we don't really know anything past that. But honestly, I feel like of all the Robins for them to decide to do this to, this might actually be the most in character with Tim. And I'm curious to see where they're going to go with it. It's, as long as it's done well and done right within the story, and it makes sense, then I'm down. And we'll just have to see what happens here, whether one way or another. But yeah, that was very, very recent. The issue just came on stands, I think, this last week.
Wow.
So yeah, Tim Drake is coming out of the closet. So go figure.
The only part of that for me is I really liked his relationship with Stephanie.
Right, and that's why I'm curious as to which way he's going to fall, whether or not they decide to have him be bisexual, whether or not he winds up being just straight up gay. But I go back to when Iceman came out of the closet. There was a very poignant issue of X-Men.
With his father, right?
With his father, yes.
Yeah, that was well done.
Beautifully done. But also there was a conversation between him and Kitty, because they had a
Sure.
comic book relationship during the Wolverine and the X-Men run. And she, they basically came to terms of I'm sad you didn't tell me earlier, but at the same time, I'm glad you're telling me now. And they're closer now than they ever were because of that. So if it does turn out that Tim is that way, that I'm sure that him and Stephanie are probably going to wind up closer than they ever have before, as long as the relationship turns out that way. So,
what is the status of Stephanie's character in DC Comics right now?
Well, in Young Justice, they were back and hanging out, and they were going off together, weren't they?
They were, yeah. She's basically running around as Spoiler. That's her current status.
Yep.
I think during Future State, she was back as Batgirl, along with Cassie. So it may wind up getting there eventually if Future State winds up becoming a reality. But for now, she's just Spoiler, and that's basically what she is. Yeah. Yep. Very, very interesting times here in the world of comic books. But we've got other comics to talk about, and I've been talking a lot. So, Murd, what you been up to lately? What you been reading?
Oh, well, about the same stuff I usually am. Just things from a decade and a half ago. I've got up to Infinite Crisis #1 has been read for the second time.
Yes!
Oh, wow.
Finally, the countdown is over. But knowing that we were going to do this, I did do a little digging to find something a little more recent to talk about, and it's something that I knew was not going to be on Chris's pile, but something that he wishes it were, because he forgot to order it. He said so. But it's something I knew he was interested in, so here we go. The Blue Flame!
Yes, Murd.
Nice.
From Vault Comics. This is the first issue of this series. It's written by Chrisopher Cantwell, whose work has been impressing all of us quite a bit lately. Art by Adam Gorham. And this promising first issue. It's the tale of a young man named Sam Browson, who he's an HVAC technician. He's a furnace repair guy, basically. And he lives in Milwaukee, and he lives a double life. At least a double life, because this story is actually told on a couple different levels of reality. The kind of complexity you'd expect of Cantwell at this point in his career. So we get a story of the Blue Flame as a spacefaring adventurer, a la Adam Strange or Flash Gordon, and he's exploring an there we go, Blue Flame Adventure magazine. I don't know if that's a variant cover or the main cover. It's not the one that I have.
Yeah. I think it is one of the variants. It's just I immediately saw it and I'm like, oh man, I love the retro feel of that.
It's a riff on Rocketeer, isn't it? That cover?
Sure, yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
Which in turn is a riff on a lot of classic pulp adventure concepts. Right. So we get the Blue Flame adventuring in an unseen or an uncharted sector of space where he finds himself brought before a tribunal of alien beings arguing for the fate of the human race. And then parallel to that, we see just plain old Sam Browson going about his daily business, doing his job and shoveling snow out of his driveway in Milwaukee, and just generally undergoing all the standard mundane melancholia and quiet desperation of American working class existence. But When it gets, instead of Miller time, he has superhero time, because even on this level of reality the story's being told on, he has a genuine costumed identity as the Blue Flame. He is a member of a vigilante club. They call themselves the Night Brigade. They're based in Milwaukee, and it kind of reminds me of Bob Burden's original Mystery Men, because it's just a bunch of working class folks who live in the area of Milwaukee. There's like 5 of them, and they're kind of superhero hobbyists. They're a costume crime fighter social club that actually go out, put on costumes, and fight actual crimes. Like they bust up a smuggler ring, where we're told. And we don't actually see that happen, but we're told that happened to them a week or 2 ago. In this issue, all they're doing is getting together at their the room they rent in a factory building of some kind, which makes me think of our own recording space in an HVAC building in Moulton, Pennsylvania. Just to meet and hang out and have some pizza before adjourning from there to a local car show where they'll be making a public appearance and signing some autographs.
Nice.
So and there's dialogue between them about their personal lives and that stuff. There's one of them is not even known by his real name to the others. He calls himself the Crimson Visage, and he's the team leader. He's basically the Red Hood. And it's Cantwell's dialogue that makes that whole part of it work as well as it does. I think it could be very bland in less capable hands, but he performs the right narrative alchemy on it. That it's really pleasing. Like I said, it reminds me of Bob Burden's original Mystery Men, which, distinct from the movie, where the core concept was loser superheroes making good, the comic version, as envisioned by Bob Burden, was more about blue collar, slightly mentally imbalanced superheroes who just kind of average small town knock around drunks who hang out at the local bar, who also sometimes put on costumes and go out and like carpool to some place and fight crime or have a rumble with supervillains. So the Blue Flame on that level reminds me of that, and anything that reminds me of Bob Burden's original Mystery Men, I will buy and keep buying until there is no more to be bought. So it got me as a reader right there. But then on top of that, icing on the cake is this mystery in space aspect of the Blue Flame out there facing this alien tribunal. Which version of reality is more valid than the other? And there's a cliffhanger at the end that kind of gives you an idea how the 2 levels of Blue Flame storytelling are related. It may provide all the answers to what we've been seeing in this first issue, or it might just introduce more questions.
Oh,
so I'll leave it dangling there. But it's
sign me up for the trade when they collect it. Absolutely.
And I am already sold, Chris. I liked this first issue a lot.
Very good. Okay. Yeah. I'll definitely be in on the trade as well. That sounds right up my alley. I like the dalliance in reality, like which one is real type of scenario. So that's right up my alley. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Anything else you've been reading, Murd? Or
well, one other thing that I did want to throw out there, mostly for Shane's benefit, because this sounds like it would be something he'd be interested in. I'm going to add my voice to listener Gil Johnson's voice, who's been talking up on our Facebook CGS supergroup, Jeremy Adams' current run on The Flash.
Okay.
Which I'm sure you've been picking up too, Ian, because Wally is back.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, and this current arc in that Flash run is basically Speedster Quantum Leap, starring Wally West, because he's been bouncing in and out of the Speed Force and into the bodies, temporarily, of other speedsters throughout time. He spent a little time occupying the body of Jay Garrick, for example. And in issue number 771, he spends like the first half of the issue, like an extended sequence, in the body of Reverse Flash of the Superfriends reality.
Oh,
oh wow!
We get and Adams play. It's funny, but it's played just straight enough that it's not over the top goofball. And the artwork for that sequence, Shane, is by Kevin McGuire.
Get out,
Shane!
How did I miss that? I'm pretty good at picking that out, man.
Wow.
I'm gonna have to track that issue down.
Number 771. It's part of the arc Blink of an Eye, in which Wally does this quantum leap thing I was just describing.
I've been waiting for it to show up on DC Universe, and I may have to just not wait now that I hear that.
Wow.
Excellent. Oh boy.
Oh, I may have that issue.
Well,
boy, that would be a happy coincidence if I did, because I was debating about picking that up again. And I ordered an issue or 2, and then I thought, no, I'm just going to read it on the app like I said I was. But I might run and check that out quick then.
It's good stuff. And it's not just like a 2-page thing either. It's like the first half of the issue is in this Super Friends mode.
Huh. And wow, that'll be awesome.
Excellent. All right, let's head over to Chris. Chris, I'm sure you have a lot to talk about, and at least one of those I'll have stuff to talk about too, but be my guest.
Oh, so because like you said, Ian, it's been a while since we've done a comic talk, so I've accumulated a fair amount of reading experiences since then, and I think I'll do just a quick things for just several books, and spend a little more time on some of the ones that really struck me. But
sure.
Let's do kind of a lightning round first. So
I've read them; they're good.
Shaney poo. So the latest James Bond offering from Dynamite, Wrath of Spectre, Agent of Spectre. Wrath of Spectre, Agent of Spectre. The gist of it is Bond has to go undercover and actually try to convince Blofeld that he's actually willing to work with Spectre. And that's the gist of it. It's Christos Gage. So when I saw he was writing it, that was enough. Plus, I haven't read everything Dynamite's done with the James Bond property, but I've read most of it. It's all been excellent. So
yeah, you've said that since day one.
Yeah, and if you're a Bond fan, I've read the first 2 issues. This is superb so far.
Isn't this the artist that's working with Ron Mars on that Soviet spy book that we were discussing? Because I remember.
I'm going to butcher this. I'm sorry, Luca Castellanguida.
I believe that's who it is. Yes,
because the artist, excellent.
I remember him mentioning that the artist of James Bond was the one that he was working with. So yeah.
So if you're a Bond fan, and again, I've been raving about the Dynamite use of the property for years now, but this is superb. I highly recommend it. I read the first issue of Tom King's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and loved it. But I've come to a decision now. This sounds so weighty. It's not. But when Tom King does stories now, I'm waiting for the trade because I find that I get so much more out of his work.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I'm talking. I mean like all the various limited series. I get so much more out of the work. Like for example, like you mentioned, Mr. Miracle, Shane, the Vision. Like I have all these in trade, and as I return to them, I enjoy them tenfold more. Like I've been reading Rorschach, and I mentioned in a previous episode, I fell behind, so I read like 3 issues of Rorschach in one shot. Oh, so much more. I got so much more out of than if I just reading them month to month. So I love this. It's almost got a John Carter Warlord of Mars vibe to it a little bit. They're putting her into a different environment, and you're not totally sure what's going on with where she is, but really compelling, grabbed me right away. But I'm just gonna wait for the trade on this because, and I mean this is a compliment to Tom's work, not as a detractor. I just think they just get so much more out of it when you read the story in one shot. So this just gets more and more disturbing.
Oh boy.
Have you been reading this, Ian?
I've only read the first issue so far. I have the other 2 bought digitally.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So
what issue are we up to at this point?
This is issue 3.
Okay, got it.
And it's Spider-Man Spider's Shadow for those of us who don't have video.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting we're on video. I apologize.
No worries.
Everybody at home, relax. All right. So, yeah, I mean, it's a what if, and they actually have it just in the corner. They're tiny, teeny little what if symbol. But as I mentioned before, it's Chip Zdarsky. We talk about just the tremendous job he and Bagley did on the Spider-Man Life Story series.
Yeah,
which in many ways was, even though it had a lot of dark elements, there was a sort of an affirming aspect to this. This is totally the other way because it's what if Peter succumbs to the symbiote?
Yep.
I mean, again, I don't want to spoil too much beyond that, but there's a lot of death. There's a lot of death.
I remember saying with the first issue, everything's fine. I'm fine. Don't worry.
But I don't mean that as a turnoff for potential readers. It's superb because he's really exploring what, and again, because when you think about the symbiote is really an extreme story about addiction, and the consequences of that. And he takes that concept to its dark conclusion, essentially.
Oh yeah.
It's superb. But again, if you like your Spider-Man light, this is not for you. Let's put it that way. Bride of Doom, Dan Slott, immensely fun.
Okay.
I read the first couple issues of this. Doom decides to make the character Victorious, who's like his she's like his main warrior, like almost like his herald, if you want to put it like in a Silver Surfer type way. He decides to take, for matters of state, it's not really necessarily out of pure emotion because it's Doom, as his bride, his queen in a sense. And he insists that Reed be his best man. That should be enough. Just what I just described right there. But the one great little wrinkle in it is that Victorious is actually attracted to the Torch, and they had an ill-advised fling before Doom popped the question.
Oh boy.
And then of course he's going to find that out. So that's enough. Read it. It's fantastic.
No pun intended.
Thank you, Shane.
Or maybe it was.
Maybe it
was. No, I'm just pathetic and sad. That was not intended. I mentioned this last time. This series is superb. Fantastic Four, life story.
Yep.
So we're in the 1970s in issue 2, and it really explores the consequences of Reed, which they always touch upon in the original series, but they always come back together, of Reed not being attentive to Sue and what that actually does to their marriage in sort of this life story format. And there's Namor. And also Victor Von Doom is there as sort of like Reed's lab partner. And, that's not going to end well. But
nope.
Like with the Spider-Man story, they're exploring the impact of time is moving, people are aging. There's no way out of things because, then just the next issue. No. This is finite. And so the consequences of Ben and Reed not being able to, to cure him, so to speak, and all those plot lines you saw throughout the history of the Fantastic Four, which of course was kind of recycled. Here they have profound consequences because they're all going to die eventually. So
and consequences, but I think in the longevity of sustaining comics, it was always, well, it's okay, Reed, you're my bud, I'll keep going, versus what you're probably going to experience.
Well put. Yeah, this I'm enjoying this pretty much as much as the Spider-Man one.
I can't wait. I can't wait until they get to the 90s and Sue gets a boob window and the thing gets
he wears a bucket on his head.
Exactly.
God, that's the Tom. Is it the Tom DeFalco period?
Yeah, it's yep. Which was unfortunately my first exposure to the Fantastic Four, the comic
mine
book.
too.
Ian.
Yep. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, one of the first issues I picked up was the death of Reed.
So you hadn't read any Lee and Kirby or any of that stuff?
Nope, I was a kid.
Wow. Okay, because Murd and I have often, joked and sparred about this. I like Tom DeFalco's writing in certain series, not that one.
Oh yeah,
that's a rough period. Anyway, so Ian, I read this.
I'm so far behind on all
and
that.
That's what's funny, Shane, is because I'm reading X-Men in trade,
but
I said, what the hell? I'll just read this, even though I'm not up to this point yet.
Yep.
So I loved it. I don't know fully what's going on, but but they basically are turning Mars into a habitable planet for like this whole other strain of mutantdom. And the best I can say is it really makes me want to catch up and read these as the more of the trades come out, because I was enthralled by wow, where are they going with this now? Is it Gerry Duggan? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Gerry Duggan, yes.
Yeah. He wrote this, excellent, but it's clearly all part of Hickman's grand plan, I would imagine.
Yep. Gerry Duggan's been writing comics for a couple of years now. He had a really good run on Deadpool and
he did Thanos.
Thanos, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So again, really enthralled by it, but I got to go back and see how they're going to get to that point. Just waiting for the trades. And then there's this
Black Hammer Reborn,
and there's really nothing else. Again, if you want to read really the ultimate in superhero comics right now, it's this. So we talked about how in the Black Hammer universe, this character is the daughter of the original Black Hammer, and she takes up the mantle. And in this new arc, it's years later, and now she's like a middle-aged woman whose marriage is falling on the rocks. She's got the teenage child, and her life is kind of deflated. And they're going to go back now and explain, like, okay, what happened? How did she go from being the new Black Hammer to this, essentially? Superb. I mean, Lemire really gets that feeling of someone who, and middle age is tricky as I start to navigate it. And Shane's navigating it too. We're almost the same age, and it can lead to a lot of questions about, or things, should I have done this? How did this work out? And take all that combined with the fact that you're a legacy superhero whose life is now not where maybe you thought it should be.
Oh boy.
It's outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Speaking of Cantwell, I got the United States of Captain America.
Oh, how was that?
2 stories. Cantwell writes the first one. Engaging. It's so. Steve is. It starts with him just relaxing in his apartment, and he's sort of polishing his shield. And Cantwell uses these scenes to reflect on the state of our country, really as it is now in our actual reality, and how Captain America fits into that. So he's reflecting on the symbolism behind him, the shield, what he thinks, how he thinks it fits and it doesn't fit in with what's going on in the world. And they're clearly referencing our actual reality and what he's thinking about. In fact, a quick little Born Again moment that I really appreciated here. It starts with the quote, and this is Steve thinking, "I'm loyal to nothing except the dream." And then he says, "I actually said that once." So that kind of gives you an idea of the tone of his reflection. And it's really well written by Cantwell. Just this living legend, this personification of what America, is supposed to mean. And he's struggling with that as he's thinking, and as the audience, the readers are reading his thoughts. And then someone breaks into his apartment dressed up like him and attacks him. And then so there's a mystery. Who is this person? They have super speed. The Falcon comes to aid him. And then they come across a young man who is sort of riding the rails, like a modern day hobo in a sense, who's sort of taken on like a Captain America persona and is like trying to defend people who are sort of in between the cracks of society. He's a young kid. I think he's gay as well, if I remember correctly.
That is correct.
And that's the second story by the writer. I think it's Jose Trujillo. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I apologize. He writes, gives you a little bit of background on that character. So really promising first issue. I'm definitely going to continue with it and see where this goes. But anything that Josh Trujillo, I'm sorry. Anything that brings in the Falcon and Sam and Steve and their friendship, their relationship, and I always like how they develop that.
Oh yeah.
And it's all about basically you have 3 different Captain Americas. You've got Sam, you've got Steve, and you have this new young man.
There'll be a lot more introduced as the series wears on.
Right. So again, the idea of Captain America can. I think he's also talking about the diversity of our country today and how Captain America can be represented by so many different types of people.
Right. He's not just a man; he's a movement.
Exactly. And there's even a line that really struck me by Again, I think he's a wonderful scribe. So Germans, this is Steve speaking, Germans had this neat word, I'm going to mispronounce this, I'm sure I'm going to do a better job, Fernweh. It means a longing or nostalgia for a place you've never been or for a place that might not even exist at all. We have a word for this in the States, Americana. This is the white picket fence fallacy that if we're not careful becomes nationalism, jingoism. That dream isn't real, it never was. So Cantwell is really laying down some political boundaries here about where he's going with this series.
Yeah.
People of a certain political persuasion probably would find that very offensive, what I just read. I found it refreshing myself.
I was going to say I could also imagine Rorschach saying those words, quite frankly, in certain contexts. So yeah.
But it's engaging. I like how it's taking on some challenging themes and posing some interesting questions. Wow.
Black Hammer Visions.
So, I forgot the name of the character. Was it Skullbuster Murd? Crusher? Skull Digger. Was it Skull Digger? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Skull Digger and Skeleton Boy, yeah.
Skullduggery?
Love him. So this is written by Kelly Thompson, art by Leonardo Romero. Again, this is the Black Hammer Visions, the anthology series. And basically they give Skulldigger his Catwoman. And it's actually a very poignant story because I don't want to spoil it, but he's clearly drawn to this character and she's drawn to him, but things happen. But I love the Skulldigger miniseries. I think it was Murd's choice for miniseries of the year, correct?
I kind of think it was the characters that
The character, okay, but
yes,
great miniseries because it's Lemire's take on sort of like the grim and gritty 80s version of comics put into the Black Hammer universe. This is a further story about the Skulldigger character. Outstanding.
And that was number 5 of that miniseries?
That's number 5, yes. So, Ian, I
Yeah.
started.
Oh, here we go.
Yep, that's next up on my pile. I just finished the...
I have Invincible up for those who are watching at home.
Right. I just finished the Brubaker and Epting Winter Soldier arc in trade form. So that's next on my... Is that
going to be on the time bubble?
No.
Okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, Murd. I just got excited that you read
Things
that.
I read in trade form aren't eligible, technically.
Fair enough.
That's fair. Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed it, Murd.
I did, absolutely. I understand why it's had such an influence on the stuff that's been done with the characters in other media since.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, well done.
Yep.
So, Ian,
Yes.
here's the thing.
Yes.
Just because, I owned a comic shop for so many years, you talk to customers, I knew about the big surprise in the story.
Right.
And it still floored me.
Yes.
Because, and I'm not going to spoil anything for people who haven't read Invincible yet, but
or seen the series, because it does happen very soon in that.
Because I read the first 2 trades. That's issues 1 through, what is it? Damn it.
74.
1 through 12, right? Or is it 1 through 18? If it's the first 3, it might be 1 through 18.
It's only the first 2 original trades, so
okay. And then 1 through 12 then.
Okay.
That's what I would assume.
Sure. So it's that moment is so brutal.
Oh yeah.
And what I love about Invincible so far, and I'm going to go on by like the first like massive phone book color one that has like the first like 47 issues in it or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Just to continue, but right off there's a very economic storytelling to this series in that right off the bat, they don't waste time. He knows his father is this great superhero. He's in high school. The writing is really magnificent in that Kirkman doesn't waste any time at all. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah,
it's very, and I mean this as a compliment. It's very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
You know these characters right away.
Yep.
Again, it's the mark of great writing. He's very economical. He's not meandering or like dragging things out in a way that it takes forever to figure out to get to know a character. It's all there in that first issue. And he's riffing on so many classic aspects of the superhero comic book genre in the story, but in a way that's still refreshing. And again, that moment when everything is turned on its head,
changes everything.
And true, again, not an imaginary story. It truly changes everything.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to continuing with it because I can see why you think this is maybe the greatest superhero comic of recent times.
It's so well done. It really is. And my favorite part too is the differentiation in the styles of artwork as well, because it starts off with
I'm just getting to that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. With Cory Walker, and then eventually you go on to the later artist, and now my brain's fried as well because that's the way life works.
Otley.
Thank you. Ryan Otley. Yeah. Yep. Completely different styles, but it almost works narratively in tone, the shift from one artist to another.
Well, I want to thank you again for the recommendation, because I read the first trade probably 15 years ago. I don't know, whenever it first came out. And I didn't get back to it. And again, so many of the great motifs of superhero comics, but because it's a creator-owned book, he doesn't have to, pander to whatever corporate directives are being sent his way, like Original Sin. So, Sierra Nick Fury Spotlight for that reference. So it's very refreshing, and I'm loving it. Thank you, Ian, very much for the recommendation.
You're very, very welcome. Episode 1026, March 3rd, 2011. Book of the Month Club, Invincible Volume 1, Family Matters, for anybody who wants to go back into the archive.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the last time I read Volume 1, and I never read any further either. But
no, me, if I was even on that episode, yeah, that'd be all I read. I have to go look. I don't even remember.
Yep. I'm pretty sure Volume 1 ends shy of the moment that changes.
It does. It does. That's Volume 2.
This is a series worth reading. So
I'm
looking forward to taking the full plunge this time and reading Volume 2. Maybe further than that. I get the feeling I'm going to be more impressed with the second volume than I was with the first.
I think you will.
I can reassure you, Murd, you will be.
Yep.
I can keep going. I got a lot more. Is that all right? Or
well,
more things.
Before you do, let me step in with one that we both read.
Okay.
Primordial.
Yep, I read it too.
Excellent, fantastic, Murd. Primordial #1, Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. This is the first issue of a new series that Jeff Lemire is coming out with from Image, and sold. That's all I'll say after this first issue. Immediately, I'm enthralled with the world that has been crafted, the alternate reality that has been crafted, Watchmen-esque in that way, because we know that the space race turned out very differently in this reality. Rather than it be us going into space and planting the flag on the moon and all that jazz. First, Sputnik failed, and then our monkey.
Well, no, Sputnik 2 failed.
Sputnik 2, good point. Yes, you're right. You're right. With Laika in it, failed, and then our attempt at putting 2 monkeys into space, quote unquote, fails, and then these space programs just shut down. That's it. Nixon wins the presidency over Kennedy because of that, and I'm sure various other reasons. And then we find out that definitely things are not what they seem with space and what happened. And damn, Lemire knows how to craft a story.
And how grand and terrifying is the artwork in this book?
Oh wow,
beautiful!
It's my jaw hit my desk. Like, it's stunning.
It really is.
This is. Well, I'd ordered this book, when we first talked about it. But Ian, I really appreciate you sending along that. Well, Image sent us the copy, right?
Yeah, Image sent us along an advanced copy for us to review on the show, and it was absolutely worth it in every single way. And I am definitely in on Primordial now that I've read it.
Here's my review for potential consumers: buy it. Let's go back to the DC ad copy for Kirby in the 70s. Don't think, just buy it. They even brought in Dark Side of the Moon art into it, essentially.
Yes, they did.
It's also exploring classic ideas of like conspiracy theories, race. There's a lot going on in there, but again, he's such a master storyteller. Mm-hmm. It's all so seamless. There's nothing clunky about that first issue.
Yep.
And there's even that cosmic sort of foreboding, mysterious 2001 vibe to the whole thing.
I was gonna say it is very Kubrickian, especially there at the end.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, so wonderful.
Yep, and hell, we even get Psychic Cosmonaut Dog. That makes me super happy as well. But Murd, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this ain't Guardians of the Galaxy either. It's not that.
It's not
of Cosmonaut Dog. No. My thoughts are that it's eerie and paranoia inducing. It's extremely atmospheric in the way that a lot of great 80s comics were. You guys mentioned Watchmen. I'll also throw in some of Howard Chaykin's work of the period. It's the limited exposure to American flag I've had. It kind of had that same kind of building paranoia and dis-ease in my mind as I read this. The artwork is it's immaculately designed. It runs the gamut from the minimalist to the profuse. And even the lettering is really kind of cool and otherworldly. Like sometimes the little lettering, the word captions, they're drawn as little rectangular prisms.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like little miniature monoliths just kind of forming out of nowhere in the middle of the page just to give the words contained in them that much more import and that much more eeriness. And I agree the alternate reality aspects are kind of cool to get into too. So that's similar to Watchmen in that regard.
Yep. Yeah.
Nixon's he benefited very well from science fiction commentary comics, either from the 80s or harkening back to the 80s.
Or in the far future when he's a giant head and president.
Nixon's back. Who's going around now?
Isn't it who's carrying him? Isn't it Agnew?
Oh yeah, it is Agnew. Good time.
God, he was a dreadful human being.
Oh yes, if you're fans of 80s style science fiction and also of Arthur C. Clarke,
Yeah.
Now, to name just a couple, this series will probably be of some interest to you.
I saw the email come through, but I didn't have time this afternoon to do it, so I'll jump on it because you kind of had me sold at alternate reality.
Yeah,
it's just sold me right there.
Well, I mean, Lemire too. Like, I mean, of all the storytellers, of all the craftsmen in comics, very few people build a world better than Jeff Lemire.
Whether Black Hammer, for Pete's sake, right?
And Sweet Tooth, for that matter. Yeah. I mean, Netflix series of Sweet Tooth is fantastic. For anybody who hasn't checked that out yet, it's super well done. But the original comic as well very much crafted that alternate world feel and aspect to it beautifully. And yeah, I cannot wait to see where they're going with the series, and definitely in for future issues. So good stuff. Very, very good stuff.
It involves super-powered animals. That's usually a hook for me, but this is not the Legion of Super Pets any more than it is Guardians of the Galaxy. So
no, it is not.
We don't know exactly what it is yet, which is part of the fun.
Exactly. Yep. Chris, before we get back to your stuff, I also wanted to step in that I got to read the first issue of JH Williams' new series, Echolands, and my God, is this series gorgeous! I mean, that's to be a given for anything, JH Williams. But just look at that. That the spread that I'm sharing on the screen right now is just a perfect example of what you are going to expect here, as the entire series is spreads. The entire book is spreads.
Is that Todd Klein lettering?
That is Todd Klein lettering. Okay. Yes, it is. And it's done. I think it may actually be done when released on its side, so that you get the full like cinematic scope of the issues. But I'm so in on this story. There's this this woman with a Little Red Riding Hood aspect to her, who doesn't quite know who she is or what the world was like when she was younger. And she's working as kind of like a bounty hunter in this world, going from job to job to survive with her few friends in the world. And there's something behind her past that even she does not know that may hold not just the key to the future, but also the key to the past, because past itself has been lost to time. Like, no one really knows exactly, what came before present day in this reality. And she may very well be the key to that. Simply stunning artwork, and it literally has Eisner written all over it. Like, if it does not win for best art, or very well even best story, because I guarantee you it's going to be there for that, I'd be shocked. It's really, really compelling work, and I cannot wait to read this in full once it's all collected. It's JH Williams. What else do I have to say? Enough said.
Hey, you said plenty, honey. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Beautiful stuff. Absolutely beautiful. All right, and that's pretty much what I've read. So back over to you, sir.
Just a few more. To complete my knowledge of all things Kyle Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
I had missed this series. It came out several years ago. I think I only read the first issue, Hadrian's Wall.
Mm-hmm.
Art by, forgive me, I'm not prepared. I'm not Ian. Alex, is it Rodriguez?
I'll take your word for it.
Okay. That's art. Story by Kyle Higgins and Alex Siegel. So there's a murder on a space station, and a a detective who's like it's really it's a noir in space basically, and the detective who's the investigator, he has ties to both the person who was murdered and this murdered man's wife, who's also on the station. So it's also exploring their shared past, and he's trying to figure out who actually committed this crime and why. It's Kyle Higgins doing a crime noir in space. It was sensational. I when I started, I did not put it down until I was done.
Nice.
That riveting. Great character study, which again he does so well in all the books he's done. I've been reading about Radiant Black every month now on this program. So if you want to get another aspect of Kyle Higgins' work, definitely check out Hadrian's Wall.
Very good.
I decided to give. We talked about this months ago in the previews.
Dracula, mother effer.
Yeah, Dracula MoFo. So written by Alex DeCampi, art by Erica Henderson. Now, this let me be very specific here. This didn't really grab me.
Okay.
But I think it's good.
Okay.
So, Ian, I think this is very much in your wheelhouse. Like the art has a very sort of Japanese manga influence.
Okay.
It's not, there's the storytelling, the actual scripting is kind of simple. I don't mean that in a negative way. And that kind of didn't, like my style as a reader, that usually doesn't grab me very much. Basically, Quincy Harker in this story, it's early 1970s California. So if you think of the stereotypes of early 1970s California, thinking about, cults and New Hollywood and all this type of stuff. And Quincy Harker in this version is a crime scene photographer. He's a young black man. And he gets involved with the three brides of Dracula. We see in every Dracula movie, usually there to like eat a baby or something like that. And the story is really from the perspective of the three brides and how they're basically trying to break away from sort of Dracula's influence and legacy. So it's a very interesting take on the whole Dracula mythology. Again, the storytelling style really isn't my cup of tea, but I thought it was very interesting. The art is dazzling. I mean, it has a real manga influence to it.
Oh yeah.
And I really, for that reason alone, I got something out of it. Not really my cup of tea. Ian, I recommend that you especially give this book a try.
I'll give it a go. Yeah.
I think you'd like it. All right, a couple more things, and I'll stop prattling. So, shamefully, I never read Tom King's Sheriff of Babylon, which, as we all know, Tom King was a CIA officer, and he spent time in Iraq. And this came out several years ago. I just didn't read it for whatever reason. And it's Mitch Gerads is often collaborator in the artwork. So the story takes place in Iraq in the 2000s after we've invaded. And as you know, many Americans were over there as contractors that they had specific skills the government needed. And the main character is an American contractor trying to train the Iraqi police. And one of his recruits is murdered. And he's trying to figure out what happened. And he gets drawn into the labyrinthine complexities of Iraq during the occupation era. This is a story from only Tom King could tell. He's exploring just different perspectives, different characters in the story, not just the policeman, the contractor, different Iraqis who come from different factions, have different interests. And he really explores, the impact of our presence in Iraq and how different characters represent different points of view and how they're trying to navigate this post-Saddam Hussein world. This is heady stuff. It is really sophisticated. I don't mean to say that to scare people off. It's still very engaging. It's Tom King.
Right.
The art is beautiful. But he's exploring a subject that, is a very complex one and stems from one of the most controversial decisions ever made in the history of U.S. foreign policy, in not just my opinion, many people's opinion. So if you're looking for something that's going to requires a little bit more thinking and introspection as a reader, I can't recommend this enough. Absolutely satisfying. I'm also ashamed to say I missed one of Garth Ennis's military history comics.
Shame.
So I didn't know this book existed.
Ah, yes, and this book out of TKD, they had a very fascinating model when they launched. Everything came out simultaneously. Single issues, trades, digital version, and like deluxe hardcover were all available at the same time. And
I don't know how I missed this.
This was one of the launch titles. Yes.
Yeah, I was. Some students gave me some gift cards at the end of the year. Said, "Oh, I'll buy some trades that I just want." And I was looking up some other Garth Ennis stuff. I'm like, "What the hell is this?" Ennis talking about the Soviet Nazi war, and I didn't read this.
Yep.
And the art is by Steve Epting.
It's made for you, literally made for you.
Yeah, I mean, let me try to find a good page as an example. But the art, I mean, it's Steve Epting doing World War II combat. So Murd just read Winter Soldier, so he has a sense of what I'm talking about here. The art is beautiful. This is the story Sara. So it follows a Soviet sniper. Now, in case some people aren't aware, two things. The Nazis lost World War II because they attacked the Soviet Union. We've naturally focused on our role in it, which is also very important, but it wasn't just D-Day, folks. It was Hitler lost the war because he attacked the Soviet Union. That's where the Nazis lost the bulk of their strength. And the Soviets were the only major power who had large numbers of women actively engaged in frontline combat. So they were medics, they were running messages, they were flying planes, they were in tanks, and they usually weren't the frontline foot soldiers, but they were there in many other capacities, and they were snipers. And this story follows a young woman who's part of this all-female squad of Soviet snipers, and she's fighting in the northern front near Leningrad. And it's just about her experiences because she's a critical thinker, so she recognized that the regime she's fighting for is as monstrous as the regime that she's fighting against. So it's her dealing with that, and also her sense of duty, and just the war between Soviet and Nazi Germany was a war of annihilation, in that you had two totalitarian states with no regard for human life trying to destroy each other. Mm-hmm. So, for example, at the end of World War II, the Soviet Union lost at least 25 million with an M people dead. To give some context of that, World War II overall, they estimate 50 to 80 million people died. So possibly as much as half of that were just Soviets.
Wow.
That gives you an idea of the scope of what we're talking about here. So, basically Garth Ennis resurrected the war comic genre, but almost by himself, single-handedly in the past several years. There's a quote from Alan Moore in the back where he says, "One of the finest works of Ennis's career."
Wow.
From Alan Moore.
Whew.
And thanks for putting up that page, Ian. And I concur. I've read every war comic Ennis has done, except for this one, which I finally just read. It's breathtaking in its scope. The art is. Look at it. I mean, if you're watching us on YouTube here,
beautiful.
But again, Ennis's attention to detail, the research he does, the reading he must do, everything is authentic in his war comics, and never more so than in this one. This is definitely one of the best things I think he's done of the many military comics.
You sold me, man. I'm gonna have to track this down. Yeah.
Or you can just borrow my copy. But
there you
go. His stories draw attention to many facets of World War II or other wars he writes about that most people aren't that familiar with. Especially if you're living in the United States, for example. And again, he should be commended for that. But he also does it so well, and he never forgets, the story and the drama and the pathos, because he's talking about topics here that are deeply. There's no hope, because he's talking about the Nazi-Soviet war in modern history is the largest war ever fought. Even within World War II itself, it is the largest conflict of all time. So the level of human suffering is really hard to comprehend, even someone like myself who's read so much about it. And Ennis really goes to the heart of that through characters like the eponymous character here. So, highest recommendation. And Shane, this last one is for you.
Oh, here we go. Star Trek: Debt of Honor.
So Chris Claremont,
on the cover?
No, that's a new character.
Okay.
Who is a Vulcan Romulan hybrid. So
Okay.
let me give you a little background here. So I was in the comic shop near me yesterday to pick up Blue and Gold for today's episode. I'm like, wait a minute, what's this? Now, Claremont wrote this about 30 years ago, I think for DC, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And is that the same Adam Hughes that we know today?
The very same.
Yeah.
Okay, so very, very. How old is Adam Hughes today?
20.
Let's see. Adam Hughes, according to the internet, let's see how old Adam Hughes is. Adam Hughes is 54 years old.
Okay, all right. So he was in his 20s when he did this. And
see, I was right from a certain point of view.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Luke, you're gonna have. I just wants to Obi-Wan's whole speech about a certain point of view. Anyway, so I knew of this story. I remember seeing it again, maybe 20, 25 years ago in a comic shop, and I didn't pick it up. And then it vanished. It was out of print. And I remember previews some months back, they're going to release this again. I'm like, oh, great. I ordered it. Then I got a note from DCP Service saying it was canceled. It's like, oh, that stinks. I always wanted to read this story. It's Claremont doing Star Trek. And then I'm in the shop yesterday, like, wait, it's here. So, and it's $10. And it's a
wow.
It's a almost like a 90-page graphic novel. So now, Shane, I want to say two things before I get to my critique. One, maybe my order did go through. So if this comes to my shipment, I'll give you my second copy. Let me say this to Shane and anybody who's a Star Trek fan. This is one of the best Star Trek stories in any medium I've ever experienced.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
That's high praise indeed.
Okay.
And it takes place after the events of Star Trek 4. So it opens here with Kirk having a nightmare about fighting the Christopher Lloyd Klingon on the Genesis planet. And then you see his son and Khan.
Commander Krug?
Commander Krug, yeah.
Yep.
And I haven't read vintage Chris Claremont in a while. So this I guess this came out in the 80s, right? Ian,
Yeah.
could you check for me what year this originally came out?
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate it.
I want to say 87, 88.
Well, there's a subtle reference to The Next Generation at the end of it.
That's at least
So
86,
it had to
87.
be, it had to be late 80s. But my praise stems from this. Claremont has such a grasp. Go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
92.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yep, 92.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
All right. I thought it was a little bit older than that. So Claremont has such a grasp of the characters, the history, both of the original series and of the original Cruise movies, which this story is heavily based in. And as I'm reading this, Shane, I actually got up out of my chair like, this is so good. Like I was just elated because and I read it in one sitting. I did not stop because
Wow.
Chris Claremont clearly understands every nook and cranny, at least of this period of Star Trek.
Beautiful.
I mean, as you read the characters, he has all their voices on, like the way they talk, the way they interact with each other. As a lifelong Trek fan, I was giddy with how good this story is. Because, and he explores, Kirk's past, and he brings in this new character, this Romulan Vulcan woman who he met years ago, and he takes them through sort of how they keep coming back to each other, and there's involves this universal threat they're trying to deal with throughout their histories. It's magnificent, and if you love Star Trek, everybody, you've got to read this story because it is so reverent and lovingly told, and it so perfectly captures the voices of all, like the Spock McCoy stuff is priceless. Like they have them playing like that weird version of chess they play.
Tridimensional chess?
Yeah. Everything is spot on. Everything. Savick appears, Kor, the Klingon commander. Claremont gives his version of why some of the Klingons look more human than others. They go into that whole thing pre the Deep Space Nine explanation. They even have Kirk ambiguously with the scientist who came back with them from Star Trek 4, the whale scientist.
Yeah.
And
Dr. Gillian Anderson?
Dr. Gillian Anderson. The
It is Jillian, though.
The truth is out there, Shane. You'll figure it out.
What the heck was her last name?
Jillian. I'm pretty sure her name was Jillian.
While you try to figure that out, I need to point out that the digital copy of this is only $5 on Comixology.
Wow.
And anybody who has Comixology Unlimited, it is included with Comixology Unlimited, so you could just go ahead and add it and read it that way. So anybody who can't find a physical copy, that's your option.
Yeah, for those who are yelling into their device, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of that character, but she plays a prominent role. Like Kirk, when the story starts, Kirk's out sailing with her, and Claremont kind of leaves it ambiguous as whether or not they're actually involved, which I thought was a great little touch. But they have, again, when Chris Claremont's at his peak form, no one does.
Taylor.
Thank you.
I did say Jillian Taylor at one point. I had the Jillian.
No one does conversation between characters better than Claremont when he's at the peak of his powers.
Mm-hmm. And
just she and Kirk talking about what they experienced, her being out of place in this new century she's in. It's I'm almost speechless to how, if again, from a perspective of loving Star Trek, how good this book is.
Yeah, I never read that.
So It's by IDW, Dead of Honor. If you love Star Trek, for Pete's sake, right now, get it.
Fantastic.
When DC put it out, was it a hardback or was it just?
I think it was a hardback. I want to say it was.
It's a facsimile edition that's re-released now. So whatever version it came out in is what it is now. So yep. Yeah, and I had no idea Adam Hughes had ever done Star Trek. So now that just intrigued me even further. Yep.
So
good stuff.
Yep, that's my
wow.
That's my breathless reviews for this comic talk.
Yeoman's work, to put it that way, just to bring it back to Star Trek. Before we sign off, I will mention that I have a lot of good stuff to read in my future, as recently on Comixology, Image was having a sale with the Eisners being released, that they were essentially their Eisner sale. And I managed to grab Firepower Volumes 2 and 3, The Department of Truth Volume 1.
I got to read that.
Crossover Volume 1. As you remember, the first issue of that was my pick for the best
That's
of. Right. And a book that I'm really looking forward to reading called Hedra. That sounds really fascinating. It's written by Jesse Lonergan. And in a glorious exploration of the comics medium with echoes of 2001: A Space Odyssey, Flash Gordon, Chris Ware, and Mobius, a lone astronaut leaves a world ravaged by nuclear war in search of life. What she finds is beyond all explanation.
Oh,
yeah. This was released back in 2020.
What's the name of the title? What's the title again? I'm sorry.
Hedra.
Hedra. Okay.
Hedra. And this one was also on sale. I spent barely over $20 for all of this, and I cannot frickin' wait to get to sink my teeth into this and sit back and relax and read some good comics. So,
Levy Poo, we look forward to your field report.
Most definitely.
Now, I want to just throw out a little bit of toy talk quick before we sign off.
Sure, yeah.
Something that I got in the mail recently. It is from Hasbro, and part of their 50th anniversary for Lucasfilm stuff. They're doing all kinds of iterations of different times of Star Wars lore. And while I'm not thrilled with the head sculpt per se, I couldn't pass up getting this. It's an action figure of Jackson.
Oh my God.
Rabbit guy.
The Green Rabbit refuses to die.
Yep. Really cool looking piece. His head sculpt's a little bit off to me, but it's sort of based on the Star Wars Adventures that IDW puts out. But I go back to the old Marvel comics when he first appeared. Some G.I. Joe news. The company Super 7 is putting out Ultimate G.I. Joes, which are in a 7-inch scale, similar to what Hasbro's doing with their classified lines. However, Super 7, that is, seems to do animated thematic runs of things. They have a great animated run on Turtles figures. They have, I think Silverhawks is coming out, and now they're going to do G.I. Joes. They're due out next year. They're starting with Snake Eyes and Timber, Duke, Cobra Commander, and a bat. Out of all things, a robotic bat.
The androids?
Yeah,
okay.
Lots of early characters, and then this one of the later ones, because bats are very popular. I was a little bit out of G.I. Joe when the bats really came into popularity, so I don't favor them over other things.
The
G.I.
Battle
Joe
Android Trooper.
Yeah, yep. G.I. Joe June happened on Hasbro's site, which gave us a hint at Cobra Island for Target, Barbecue, and Breaker on a Ram Cycle, which are coming out later this year. And to me, looks spectacular. Barbecue is one of my favorites because he came with a lot of accessories. I gravitated towards Joe figures with a lot of accessories: Snow Job, Scrap Iron, Zartan, just characters that had tons of stuff to come with them. And Heavy Artillery Roadblock, which was supposed to come out in September, but I just got a notification that mine's coming this week, so hopefully that's true.
Okay.
It's a Roadblock looking in a very classic version 1 with the camo orange pants. Yep, and a big gun. It's not the Ma Deuce gun, but it is a big artillery gun. And then surprisingly in July, Target had some kind of collector spot where all these exclusives were either released for the first time or re-released. And a huge part of that, it was the second week of July, and I think it was a Tuesday they released it. All the Cobra Island figures, or just about all of them that had been released and were almost impossible to find. Now, I had gotten at least one of all of them, but there were tons of people across the country, and if not the world, that had a miserable time finding these. You could order them, pre-order them. They had tons of them. They had Cobra Infantry, which was just a little bit different than their Cobra. No, it was Cobra Trooper, which was just a little different than Cobra Infantry ones. You could finally order multiples of them if you were patient enough to order one, wait till it's shipped, order another one, or if you just wanted one of each, you had a chance, and they were on for a good amount of time. Well, lo and behold, I got yet another Viper that just came yesterday.
Nice.
So that was kind of cool. My point is that, to me, Hasbro and Target kind of fixed all the problems they had last year with how difficult these darn things were to get. And it ran the gambit of all the subset of Cobra Island figures that's, exclusive to Target, which I hate exclusives. But it was Beachhead, Firefly, the Baroness and that coil cycle that she has, and Cobra Island Roadblock, which looks like heavy duty to me, and then Firefly, Viper, and I'm missing somebody. Well, anyway, you could order them. There were plenty of them. They would go, quote, out of stock or go down to where you couldn't order them. Then the next day they'd start popping up. So the longevity of it over the last few weeks was really great to see fans of this line be able to get these ones, because they were damn near impossible to get in a lot of ways. So that's some good news that came through. There's also a Zartan figure that was released not long ago, and this is what he looks like. I showed him. I'm pretty sure I showed him before.
Yep.
Zartan. Sorry, how to do it.
For Hasbro's PulseCon coming up later this year, there is a version of this that actually color changes.
What?
Excellent.
Now, this color change is not with sunlight. They tried that and it wasn't working. It would only last a couple times, and then the cell inside the whole figure to do it would die out. This is color change for heat and cold. So you stick him in the freezer, he gets really, really deep blue, and you pull him out and he eventually comes back to normal skin tones. But it looks really cool. So I hope it's not too difficult to get. All things point to it'll be like the Supreme Cobra Commander was last year, which I had great success getting that. So hopefully this one will go that same route, because it looks spectacular.
Nice.
Thanks to Field Report, honey.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Just some toy hunting.
Oh, what better way to end an episode than with some G.I. Joe toy hunting action?
There's probably a lot of better ways, because people who don't like G.I. Joe are going, oh God.
Well, everybody else, tough nuggies. But for everybody else, thank you very much for supporting us over at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. Your continued support makes us very, very happy campers, and you are the best. So thank you so much for that and more. And boy, oh boy, have we shot our bolt, and we are wordy bitches when we don't talk for a while. So this is going to be a solid 245 probably for folks out there. But you know what? Listen to it in parts. Enjoy. Excellent. And Shane, you still have a few more words for us. So
I do.
Let's get that going.
visit us at comicgeekspeak.com to send us an email. The address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com. Let us know things you've read, searched out, hunted for, found. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, check out the episode on YouTube. It's a lot of fun. I tend to watch myself a little bit and then go, oh God, I look terrible. Send in some more Muddle the Murds, even though we're a little bit behind on getting them out. We do appreciate it and we need them because I'm sure we'll run out at some point. And, you know, Adam, I'm sure you felt just fine because you got those with almost no problem for at least 2 of them. So that was great. We'd like to thank everyone again. It's because of you that we're all here and continue to do so. So thank you. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
And